Hello, arcade gamers, and welcome back to Biggie D's Arcade. Today, we've got a very special guest. We have got Retro Ralph in the house tonight. Can't think of a better guest to have this weekend than you, Retro Ralph. I've been watching you for a very long time. Probably about 2 or 3 years I've been watching your channel. And you have some of the best content I've seen around, some of the best produced stuff. And you want to kind of introduce yourself and your channel if anyone hasn't heard about you?
Sure, yeah. So, Retro Ralph, been doing it for, thank you for having me, by the way. It's been, I started my YouTube channel in December of 2018. So it's been a while. And I've kind of focused all over the place, but I did kind of start with Arcade 1-Up. So I'm definitely familiar with most of the people in the community. Like I see names that are still in the community now that were in the community when back in 2018. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, it's been fun so far. And yeah, this YouTube channel is just Retro Ralph.
Yeah, it's a great channel. I know you started off with like home arcade, like Arcade 1-Up,
Yeah.
AtGames, and then you slowly moved into real arcades. Do you still own any of these smaller 3/4 scale size arcades?
The last one I had was one that actually I was going to sell you, and then you passed on it, but for a good reason. You already had it was the KI Pro, and then you already had gotten like a really good deal, I guess, right on your Killer Instinct. But that was the last one that I had. I never really told anybody I bought that. I was because I had plans to do. I was like, oh, I'm going to do this big video on it, and then I don't know. I just kind of lost interest, and I think because it wasn't selling well, I just was like, well, no one. I don't know. The community didn't seem interested in it, even though when you really looked at it, it was pretty well put together outside of, some of the controls they kind of skimped in certain ways where they could have just like paid an extra, I don't know, who knows, in the cost of goods, they probably had to pay an extra 20 cents and it would have put a better joystick, but everyone always upgrades that stuff anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. But I thought they did a good job on that cabinet, but that was the last one that I had.
Yeah, that was a good one. There were a couple of things working against that cabinet and the success of that one. One in particular was they had released the KI, and then shortly after, I mean, I think even before the KI officially released, they
Yeah.
announced the KI Pro. So it just, like, it was a bad timing, I think, when they announced it. They probably should have given the KI, the 3/4 scale one, a year or so for people to buy that one and enjoy it, and then release the Pro. It was just so close together in the two releases.
Yeah.
And then there was also the controls. I heard the controls were pretty bad. Like it had these HAP competition, I think, joysticks, and you couldn't pull off some of the moves. It was like impossible.
Yeah,
So
it had the so the competitions are the good ones. It had these ones called the Ultimates, which are actually like, remember those toys that you used to break out of the I'm gonna have to try a hard time explaining this. Remember they were like in a plastic thing and you'd like bend them and they'd break off and then you'd build something from them. Does that make am I, you know what I'm talking about?
so
It's
you would do what again?
Do you know those toys that were like, it was pieces of plastic, but it was in like a, let's say it was like a plastic sheet and you'd break the pieces off and sometimes they'd have jagged edges and you'd break them apart and then you'd build something with it.
Okay,
Well,
yes.
that joystick has, the one they used in it has the actuator, which is what hits the buttons. It would have like unfinished edges, like slightly unfinished. So when you're playing it, it would like catch on the micro switches. But that's kind of, everyone kind of knows that about the Hap Ultimates. But the thing is, it's probably only cost Arcade 1-Up maybe like 10 cents more to get the competitions. So I don't know why they made that choice. It's sort of weird to like make the cabinet so awesome and everything and then skimp on that one part. But
Yeah,
other
so
than
it
that, I think
came
it was
with
good.
the HAP Ultimate, right? Was it?
Competition, or yes, the Ultimates. Yeah,
And
the
the
competitions are the
competition is
better
what
one.
they should have put in there.
Yeah.
And the competitions were only like a fraction of the price more to get one of those.
I mean, for them, I'm guessing because they probably bought directly from Hap, probably a couple cents maybe, right? I mean, it's probably not that much more.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, when you think about it, like we don't work for these companies, but you think about it like, all right, if they were going to sell 5,000 of them and they can shave off 25 cents per unit, it starts to add up a little bit over time. But I don't know. It's just interesting.
Yeah, it seems like I think as a company, as Arcade 1-Up when they're building these things or they're planning it all out, they're thinking of any way they can cut costs to make a little bit more money. They're like, oh, if we cut a little cost on the joystick, we can hire one other person. or something like
Yeah,
that.
maybe.
So, but in the end, it's going to cost them because people aren't going to be as interested in the product if it doesn't play right. If you can't pull off the moves and you have to upgrade the sticks, kind of defeats the purpose of even getting a pro or a professional series cabinet.
I agree. Yeah.
So you're completely out of Arcade 1-Up. You don't have any more.
I don't have anything. I actually have. All right, that's kind of a lie. I have one. I have a countercade that's modded that's been sitting in that closet for like 3 years. It's from whenever I did the video on modding it. It ended up just going in that room back there. So actually, I guess I have one. So
okay, so you officially have one Arcade 1-Up left. It's a countercade. I bought this. This is my first Miss Pac-Man countercade. First countercade I've ever had, and just opened it today. Turned it on for the very first time. I actually really enjoy it. I'm having a lot of fun. I like the smaller screen. It's got like a full-size joystick, full-size button. So I was playing like King of Balloon. I was getting some pretty good scores on it. And I like the idea of the countercades, and actually having one in my hand now and playing them, I actually see, what it's all about and why people were liking these.
Yeah, it's almost like, I mean, they're very playable, which is cool about them. They definitely don't feel like, you don't feel like you're playing on like a New Wave Toys or a a quarters, one of the, I'm sorry, I always forget the other name, Numbskull. Even though those are playable too, like I'd almost argue the countercades are like pretty playable if that's the only way you're going to play it. They're not bad.
Yeah, that's one thing I instantly noticed when I started playing the Arcade 1-Up countercade is it had the full size joystick, and that makes such a difference. You're trying to play this little Ghost and Goblins with that tiny joystick. It's almost unplayable with that little tiny joystick. So you pretty much have to plug in an external controller to be able to play it. But not these Arcade 1-Up countercades. They're actually playable out of the box without any external controllers. We had a chat come through. Ezekiel Chicago Retro Ranger. He says, "What's up, Biggie D and Ralph? How are you guys? I'm doing pretty good, except for my place flooded yesterday. Woke up to like my entire arcade, like 3 inches of water in here, and water heater busted. But so far, everything I've tested has worked. I haven't come across anything that hasn't yet. A lot of the power adapters and stuff were sitting in the water, but I have all my arcades sitting on furniture risers, so it was a few inches off the ground already, kept them dry. And I guess the power adapters can get wet. It's just, as long as those dry out, it shouldn't affect any of the hardware inside, I don't imagine."
Yeah. Actually, I met Ezekiel at Pinball Expo last year. He's a super cool guy. We didn't get a chance to talk that long, though. I hope that he'll be back there this year when I go, because he was so nice, and he was with his daughter. So it was just cool it's cool to meet the people. And I know you went to, I can't remember what show you went to recently. I think you got
I went to the Cleveland Gaming Classic. There were a bunch of people from the community there. I think a lot of people in our community are planning to go to Pinball Expo this year. That's kind of like the big meetup this year.
It's a great show, and I mean, especially if you're into or getting into pinball, because you can't be around a better group of people that'll introduce you into pinball. That was kind of my. It's not that I never played pinball before, but not to the level I am now, and it was kind of because of that introduction to that crew of people that they were just like, they're so passionate about pinball that if you go there and you don't leave there like hooked on pinball, there'd be something wrong with you. like they're that excited about pinball, so it's a cool place to go.
So was Pinball Expo last year the first time you went?
No, I went last year was my third year. So the first year I went was the first year they came back from COVID. And and you still had to wear we still had to mask up for it, but that was my first year going, and it was only within 6 months of me going back from there that I bought a pinball machine. And I even said in the video, I'm like, crap, I'm gonna buy a pinball machine. Like, I'm so hooked on this. They're obviously really expensive, so you can't really, it's not like you can just like go buying them left and right. But I saved up for 6 months after, and then bought one, so it was pretty cool.
It's not even so much the cost. Like, I found a really good condition Dirty Harry pinball, which was a guy was asking $5,000. I had talked him down to $1,500. He's like, just come get it. And then I started thinking about the logistics of moving that thing into my house. And I was like, it's just.
Are you on a second story?
Well, no, I'm in a first floor, but I'm in an apartment. It's like a townhome.
Okay.
And I just don't have the room for a full size pinball. And that's really what it came down to. It wasn't the money, it was the space. I didn't have the space.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is like, I have not bought any old ones yet. Like I feel comfortable after all these years repairing the full size arcade games, but I'm not really ready to. And that's like a full time thing. I'm always having to fix something, and so I really didn't want to get into pinball repair. I wanted to buy something new so that it had a warranty, and then I could learn slowly how to like fix it versus buying an old one where you could bring it home and it could break the day you bring it home, right? So. So that's something to consider, but
So you've owned pinball now for a few years, real pinball machines. Have you had a lot of maintenance that was needed on yours?
I mean, here's what I'd say is if when you get it, they come with like a little, it's like, hey, this is the stuff you should do to keep it running, running well. And cleaning it and waxing it is like something you need to do pretty regularly. If you do that, that doesn't mean you're not going to have problems. But I did have a couple problems. I had there's a there's a board in the back of the stern machines called the power distribution board, and it's kind of like what powers everything. And I had that break on my Godzilla. That part, funny, my Godzilla wasn't under warranty anymore, but that part was like $80. So I had to I replaced it, and it was fine. But outside of that, I've had a couple little things, like maybe something that the ball hits often has broken off, and I have to buy like a post or something like that. But yeah, it's been mostly minor stuff, like nothing major that's like $500 to fix or anything crazy like that.
So the waxing, though, that's kind of key into making sure that it continues to run and doesn't have any issues.
I mean, that's more about the cleaning and waxing is more about just you pay all this money and you have this beautiful artwork on the play field. If the ball starts, especially in Arizona, if it starts picking up like dirt and dust and stuff, it can cause like grime on certain, like, because sometimes a ball will pass through something and it's just a sensor, and the sensor registers that the ball went through. But if they get dirty and grimy, they'll stop working. So the cleaning kind of prevents you from having issues, I'd say. And the machine plays a lot better. Like a dirty machine will play really slow. Like the ball won't roll nicely over it. So yeah, but it's easy to do. It's like you just have to be diligent about doing it, because then I think you could potentially run into issues just because you're not cleaning it,
Yeah, I think I'm going to end up getting a real pinball. I think that's what I really want. The virtual pinball is more in my price range and the size for the place I'm in now. But when I get a house someday, I'm definitely going to be getting a real pinball, just because you can't replicate with virtual pinball what you get in a real pinball. It's just impossible.
Yeah.
No matter how good the technology gets, it'll never replicate that feeling you get playing real pinball. So definitely cool to hear that the stories and the information you gave us on, when I do own one, or if someone in the audience ends up buying one, they'll know what they're getting into. But I kind of want to transition and get out of the real arcades and get into more of what we talk about on this channel, which is home arcade. And what I consider home arcade is like things that cost, less than $2,000, smaller than the originals, but they replicate and give you that similar feeling you get on the original or the real arcades or real pinballs. And there's 3 companies in particular that fit that for us in this community. That's Arcade 1-Up, AtGames, and Unico. So I wanted to cover all 3 of these subjects with you tonight.
Yeah.
And interesting, we talked about the Pinball Expo, because you were the first person that saw this pinball machine before it became what it is now. You saw the prototype, which had the Legends Pinball 4KP logo up at the top there above the back glass.
Yep.
Didn't have the light up topper. It didn't even have a centered coin door. Had an offset coin door. And obviously we saw in your videos, and Cool Toy was there as well, that there were some major issues with the Addams family table. Can you kind of tell us, like, what did you see and what was your experience with it at the Pinball Expo back in October?
Yeah, so when I first went to the booth, there was, I don't know if the reps were just walking around helping other people, but I started playing Addams Family, but the other reps seemed busy. They were doing other things. And I can't remember the woman's name. She was very, very nice. But I was playing it, and I was thinking to myself, wow, like, this is really bad. It was on Addams Family. It was really bad. And I'm on this, why would this, like, I'm kind of, as I'm sitting there standing in front of it, I'm kind of like, I'm in a state of disbelief that they would have brought it to the show like this and the software wouldn't be ready, because I knew it was probably just software that needed to be updated. But as soon as she kind of saw me looking at it, like, I don't know if she saw my face and I looked disgusted or what, but she came over and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I just want to let you know the software is still in the early stages. So if if you are having some issues with it, like we are confident we're going to get it updated and running well, and all the issues that you encounter right now will be resolved." So she was very, very like straightforward and honest about where the software was. But then she's like, "Would you consider trying some of the other games just so you can maybe get a grasp of the changes we've made of the user interface and everything?" And that so I didn't, by her telling me that, I kind of got like a little bit more, okay, it's in the early stages, no big deal. But then when she showed me the user interface, I was like, wow, this thing, because AtGames, the pinball machine always had a really bad user interface. Like when I went and sold mine, because I sold my original one, the guy that came and picked it up, he wasn't someone in the community like that buys all these products, and I was trying to show him how to use it, and he's like, "I don't get it. Like there's a play button in the AtGames thing." Like he was really confused trying to figure it out. But anyway, so my initial reaction was, okay, the AtGames, all things aside, the Adams Family software wasn't ready, but the other games were kind of cool. Like they were playing better. You could tell they had 4K upgraded the software. So all in all, it wasn't a good way to represent Adams Family, but the machine itself, after she kind of explained to me what I was looking at and what was fixed on it and where it was, I was accepting of that, But the thing is, that show has a lot of people that will just walk up to it that are hardcore pinball people. So if their first experience was Adams Family, they were probably pretty turned off.
Yeah, you got some people up there that have high expectations for their pinball, and they just kind of put their product out there without it being ready. Did that hurt them or did that help them? I think it helped them in ways because they improved a lot of the visuals and like the cosmetic things you see on the outside. But we still haven't seen a lot of improvement in the Adams Family. There's still a lot of flipper lag. The plunger doesn't seem to work properly. It's not synced properly with the software. And then there's just some other little issues. But people seem to be pretty upset with the Adams Family. And that's 4 months later. So still hasn't made a lot of progress. Have you played it since it released a couple of weeks ago?
I haven't. The only thing I've done as far as kind of updating me knowledge-wise on it was I watched Wagner's video on the surround sound feedback kit, and that's actually pretty cool. Like it's pretty cool that a company that is not known for making these, like, I mean, I know they made their first pinball machine, but it's not like they're this known entity and they've made virtual pinball machines for a really long time. The fact that they'd go to that length to make a kit for it is actually pretty cool. For the people, that don't want to maybe go and put a PC on it and spend all that extra money to do that, or put their Nintendo Switch on it, or whatever the other things you can do. So it's pretty cool that they did that, in my opinion. I don't know how well it works. I'm just going based on Wagner's video, but that's a pretty neat thing to have a subwoofer and all those exciters to sort of simulate the ball rolling or the ball hitting off like pop bumpers. That's pretty cool.
I haven't seen one up close in person yet, but I'm watching the videos because I'm really interested in getting one of these. So I'm keeping up with everybody's videos and all that of theirs that they got in the last couple of weeks. And it's interesting. You'll see the video of it before the SSF kit, and then you'll see the video after. And it's like night and day. And that's me hearing it through the video.
Yeah,
so you can only imagine what it's like for that person. And it's like a must to get the SSF kit. I think it's like a $400 kit, and then they charge about $100 to install it, or you can install it yourself.
So you can buy it. So that I don't know this. So can I, like, let's say I want to buy one. Can I buy one and add the SSF kit, and they'll pre-install it and then ship it to me like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could do it that way, and they'll charge $100, I think, for installation. Or you can go ahead and just order the table, get the SSF later, install it yourself.
Okay.
It's up to you.
Okay. So I guess the reason why I think that's so cool, though, is that I used to have I built it. It was Rec Room Masters used to have this vertical cabinet that you could buy and turn into a pinball machine, and I did the SSF kit myself, like, doing it through like the open source software. And it's kind of a pain in the ass. I mean, you have to have an external, you have to have this like external sound card that you hook up, and then all these amps basically that then goes to a front amp, a back amp, a like middle amp for the subwoofer. So you have like all these amplifiers and all these things. Like it's not easy to do if you were going to do it yourself. At least it wasn't when I did it. So the fact that they've made it sort of plug and play, like that's pretty cool. Like there's some actual engineering work that AtGames would have to do to make that work. So like I kind of have a lot of respect for the fact that they would even try to make it a plug and play consumer thing. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like I wouldn't say it's as good as like those pre-built virtual pinball tables that people put out, but it's close.
But it's close.
It's getting there. You know, if you looked at the HD Legends pinball that they had originally come out with, and this, it's just progressed. It's like a big difference in the two. So I like what they're doing. Now the Adams family is not the only one, and they do have a full lineup of these. And what I like about what AtGames is doing is they're utilizing licenses to give you dedicated artwork. Similar to like what we saw from Arcade 1UP. They're starting to do that kind of business model where it's licensed artwork on the outside.
Yeah.
And so far they've announced 5. Adams Family is currently for pre-order. Next week it'll be out of its pre-order phase and it'll ship immediately. But what's coming up next is Dinosaur Dynasty, Snoopy, Star Trek, and Attack from Mars. So they got a huge lineup already, I would say, for a brand new product. And they've said there's going to be like 40 of these when it's all said and done.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so there should be some more announcements this year on new tables. But just looking at these 5, you know, which one pops out to you, or which one, if you were interested in a virtual pinball table, would attract you the most?
Yeah. Well, before I almost feel like I want to tell people that before the show you showed me this image and you guessed which one almost instantly which one I would like.
I said he would like Attack from Mars.
I love that game though. So that game is a really fun. Like if there's a pinball machine that, like, let's say you'd never played pinball before and you're like, I don't know what this is all about. Attack from Mars is so fun. Like that game is fun, but the artwork's also super cool. So right. I feel, not that I don't like Adam's Family, but I just think out of all of these, the one that pops the most to me that I'm like, oh man, that looks really cool is the Attack from Mars. That would be the one that I would want if I was going to pick one.
Yeah, so I have the Attack from Mars Arcade 1UP pinball, and I remember back when you were doing your Arcade 1UP videos, you were like one of the first people that had the Star Wars pinball. Do you remember that?
Yeah, so the deal on that was that I would get it, which is weird because they basically gave me Star Wars and they gave Cool Toy Marvel. And I was like, man, you guys did this backwards because I would have wanted Marvel. And I don't really, I'm not a big, people know I kind of talk about, I don't dislike Star Wars. It's kind of a joke, but I'm not that into Star Wars, right? I'm not like a super fan of Star Wars. So it was weird that they gave me Star Wars because that wasn't the one that, like, to me, I would have been passionate about. But I don't know, looking back at that though, I gotta say I thought it was really good for the price that they wanted for it at the time. For $4.99, I felt like, and it got so trashed for being the biggest piece of crap, and I never really thought it was a piece of crap ever. I thought it was decent but after it was $4.99, it shouldn't have been any more than that. That's what it should have been. And I feel like at $4.99 even today, that if you were getting into it for the very first time, you've never played virtual pinball before, I don't think it's that bad. It got totally trashed though, so I really don't think it's terrible.
I got it. I got my Attack from Mars for $400, and it's like I don't really want to sell it because the outside of it looks amazing. The artwork's really good on it. It's small enough for my apartment, and it's just like it's kind of cool having the look of a pinball table in my game room. I don't play it that often, but I do like the look of it. So I'm going to keep that one. So I don't want to have 2 Attack from Mars pinballs. So I've been leaning more towards the Star Trek. Now these started out at $1,100, then they went to $1,200, $1,300, and then they maxed out. Their MSRP is $1,500. So every one of these 5 here you're seeing on the screen right now are $1,500. So it's quite a bit of money for me to put down on one of these. So I've been kind of taking my time, doing my research, making sure that I get the right one. And I'm leaning Star Trek, but I also kind of want to wait and see. You know, NOD is coming up here, which is their National Owners Day next week. And I'm hoping they announce a new table. I'd like to see a Star Wars. I know you're not a big Star Wars fan, but I'd love to have that one. because the
Yeah.
music on it is just iconic. It would be a great table to have. But who knows? There's a bunch of other ones out there that they could do. Zen has a lot to choose from, and it looks like they're going to do mostly Zen. Exception would be that Dinosaur Dynasty.
That one makes me laugh a little bit because that's totally like, hey, we don't have Jurassic Park, so let's try to make this as close to Jurassic Park as we possibly can without getting sued. Like that one's, it's kind of funny, but I don't know. Is that game good? Actually, no, I played that game. That game was actually okay. I played
Yeah,
it.
I've heard the game's pretty good, and a lot of people I heard that have been pre-ordering this, they're hoping that Jurassic Park actually does come out. At least the Zen table comes out for it later, because it would pretty much match the artwork.
You know, it would be cool if they did. I don't know if they'll do it, but the Jaws, I like the Jaws on Zen on Pinball FX3. It's not bad. It'd be cool. I don't know if they'll do a Jaws because that would probably require a little bit more licensing cost, but that game, I don't know how many of these Zen have they announced, like all the Zen games that they're going to actually do, or is that still like kind of to be determined?
They haven't announced anything except for these 5, but
Okay.
at the Pinball Expo in October, they were handing out a flyer that had all kinds of tables on there.
Oh.
It was basically asking people, which one would you want, or which one would you pick? And there were some on there like Creature from the Black Lagoon. There was pretty much just any Zen. So
So
Jaws
those weren't
would be on
commitments.
there.
It was
Marvel.
just kind of, was that like not a commitment, but more of like a, would you like to see?
Yeah,
Or-
kind of
okay,
gauging interest level of
Okay.
the people at the Pinball Expo as, which license would you buy or which
Yeah.
one would you want to see? And on that flyer, there was Marvel, there was Star Wars, there was Indiana Jones was on there. So there's a lot of really good licenses that they can get. It's just, they got to make the decision which one's going to pay off the most for them.
What I think is the most interesting thing about AtGames is that they were kind of like doing this thing, and I don't mean this to sound, it's kind of true. It's just what they did. In the beginning, when they came out with the Legends Ultimate, it was more about, hey, yeah, we know, and they don't say this. This is just kind of like implied. It was like, yeah, we know the games that are built in aren't the best, but don't worry because you can kind of add whatever ones you want. And so it was kind of like they were reducing costs by not putting AAA. They had a couple games that were really good, but they were like, hey, we can reduce the cost of this, the total cost of goods of this if we don't put these crazy big games on it. And then people could just add the ones they want. But it's interesting because I almost feel like now they've pivoted the other way. And now they're like wanting to partner with more legitimate companies like Zen and licensing this stuff, which that's kind of cool. And it makes me wonder if, with 1UP seeming to lose a little bit of momentum lately, if they were like, hey, if we just put a little bit more money in this, we can actually like gain the market share or gain a little bit more market share. I don't know if that's the goal, but that's what it feels like to me. Like they're trying to legitimize themselves a bit more by offering products.
Whether or not that was the goal for them or not, it's working because they're like, we always said Arcade 1UP was like number 1 in home arcade, but it seems like in the last few months, AtGames has been at the top. And it's because Arcade 1UP doesn't release anything, and AtGames is improving their products. And then they're also giving us something new, which is this licensed artwork. They've never done that before.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, that's what they liked about Arcade 1UP was the licensed artwork and having those dedicated cabinets. So I think their business model, if this is their plan, it's working and it's a good idea. One last thing I wanted to mention here was
JJ talked about me tossing one in the pool. That was a little okay. There was a period of time where I was very down on. I will say, Biggie D, don't ever do this. Don't ever make something that happens at one of these companies personal, because I kind of felt like I took something personal that happened between myself and AtGames from a business standpoint, right? Mm-hmm. And it was coming out in my content. I was like very, very negative. I mean, it was so obvious. Everything was so negative towards AtGames. I feel bad about it now, but funny thing is I met PK in person at Pinball Expo, and he was excited to meet me, and I was excited to meet him. So it was water under the bridge at that point. But there was a period of time where I was kind of being a jerk, I think, towards AtGames, admittedly. But
yeah, so PK, he's the owner.
Yeah, he's the CEO.
I remember you saying something at the Pinball Expo in one of your videos or your live stream saying PK doesn't like me, or he doesn't. You guys, I guess aren't on the best of
But then
terms.
we met in person.
You were
It
on
was
the
great.
elevator together, right?
Yeah, the elevator doors literally. Imagine seeing it was, if it's someone that you feel like you might have had like a rocky relationship with at one point, and the elevator doors open and you're staring right at him. I was like, oh my gosh, that's PK. And he knows it's me. It was just funny, and because he looked at my face and then he looked at my badge, and I think he was just confirming what he thought, and then I looked at his face and looked at his badge. So, but then we shook hands and had like a short conversation. He's actually a very, very nice guy. I felt bad because I really do feel like I went hard on them, and it wasn't necessarily always justified. So,
Yeah.
at least I can admit that now. I was definitely a little bit anti AtGames for a while. So,
And your channel, it's so big, you have such a reach, like some of the things that you could say could, potentially really hurt them. So they're probably really watching what you're saying and, probably hang on every word that you say.
I think that's true about any size channel in this space, to be honest, because these you'd be surprised. Like even now, if I go on, sometimes I'll do it just to see what happens. Like I'll use my wife's account, so the algorithm hasn't like fully put her in this world, and I'll type something like Arcade 1-Up and see who comes up. You come up, like all these people come. So you might not think that you have this massive reach, but you probably have a bigger reach than you think. And if Biggie D decided tomorrow, like to say, I think AtGames is a big piece of trash, like you could actually have some impact negatively on them as well. I really think
it's
that.
Arcade 1-Up. There's not a lot of content creators. For as many people that is searching Arcade 1-Up, there's not a ton of creators for that space. Like if you go search PlayStation, I mean, you're going to have, endless amount of creators. Arcade 1-Up, there's maybe a list of maybe 20, 30 at the most.
Yeah.
There's not many.
And then there's like the fair weather ones where they'll do a video here and there, or like a huge YouTuber will do a video. Like I can't remember the guy that the one that did that video that everyone kind of critiqued.
Scotty or something like that. Scott
the Woz.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I mean, think about it, right? Like he probably would make that video, and then his regular content isn't Arcade 1-Up, but he could get a lot of views if he talks about it. But it's not like he's doing it every day. So I do think that the base community that you're in has way more influence than they sometimes think they do. Like if they were to say something, positive or negative.
Yeah.
So,
and that's something, that we have to focus on is like, when we're saying something that people are listening, and you want to make sure what you're saying is, what you really feel. You're not like shilling a product or anything, because people will see through that.
And that's hard to do, like, especially if you, it's not hard to do. What I should say is like, I'll give you an example of something I did it was when I was learning how to be a content creator, but they sent me the Burger Time, when they did Burger Time, and everyone was really excited initially because they thought Burger Time was going to be Karate Champ, because that's what it was originally going to be. And then they decided that Burger Time I don't remember why they made that choice, why they thought Burger Time. Maybe that's what the retailers would buy and they didn't want Karate Champ or whatever. And when that came out and they sent it to me, I did the review, and I knew when I did the review, like, oh, this is an 8-way joystick. I knew that. I mean, I knew it as I was playing. I'm like, it's not that big of a deal. It's $500, and like, yeah, it won't play Burger Time as well. But I don't know. I just didn't think of it as I should be the one to tell everyone about this big thing. And then because I didn't, the next person that did was like, hey, this thing's junk. Like, it doesn't have the 4-way joystick. But there's a little bit of truth to that, because unless you're playing Burger Time and you're like real pronounced with like up, down, left, right. I don't know. Have you ever tried to play that game on an 8-way joystick? Like, it won't sometimes go up, or it won't sometimes go right or left or down. And so that was a big mistake of mine, because then at that point, I was like, man, I wasn't intentionally trying to not disclose it. I just didn't think it was that big of a deal, but it really was. It actually was a big deal. So it's like something I kind of messed up on. Like, I should have told people, and I wasn't like trying to hide it because they told me. I just was like, it's not that big of a deal, but it was. So
that's how I've always been with my channel, is like, I just say what I feel, and if I feel it, even if it's negative, or, it may come back to bite me in, a week or two later, I still say it because that's what I feel. And I feel like if I always continue to focus on that and what I truly feel and say that, I won't get in any trouble. But when I start going off and I'm, misrepresenting something, or I'm overly positive on something that should be negative, that's going to come back to hurt me even more. So I've always stuck to that, and I continue to do that.
Yeah, no, that's a good thing. I will say though, sometimes I get excited about a product, and for me, I will, because I'm enjoying it, I'll sometimes be okay with going, all right, it has these issues, but because I like it so much, I'm willing to overlook it. And I think sometimes when you say that stuff, other people will be like, well, why would you want to, like, why is that acceptable to you? And it's like, well, it's not acceptable, but I really like this thing, and it's not going to change because that's how they designed it. So I'm just going to enjoy it the way it is. So sometimes there's part of like just accepting something for what it is, but it's always good for the community to voice their disapproval about it, because then hopefully the companies will fix the things. You know what I mean? So I mean, I think that was probably one of the biggest lessons learned for me, is like, I didn't know how to be critical of it without it sounding like I was bashing it. Because that's sometimes, because, you know, you have to do that sometimes. You have to say what warts it has, but also that it does have some good qualities too. And sometimes that's a fine line to figure out how to balance that.
Yeah, and trying to figure out, do you start with the positive and end with the negative, or do you start with the negative and end with the positive? I think it's better to start with the negative and then finish with the positive. But I did want to show off this slide here. It was just kind of coming up this week, and it was important for any AtGames owners out there, or anyone potentially looking to get one of these AtGames 4KPs. So starting on February 20th, that's going to be Tuesday, the firmware Day 25 update will come out. Also, Pinball Pack Codes redemption will be available on the website. And then the announcement for NOD. That's what I'm going to be paying attention to, is the 6 p.m. Eastern on February 20th. They're going to announce their NOD clearance or sales on products. And hopefully they'll either announce a new pinball table, a new skin, or maybe a discount on the Addams family. I just need something to push me over the edge and make me buy one of these things. And if they would just kind of discount the Addams family a couple $100, or announce a new table, I'm probably all in. I'm probably going to pre-order one of these. Do you have any interest in getting one of these AtGames virtual pinball tables?
You know, it's interesting because there's a guy, I wish he still lived in town, because I'd totally introduce you to him and then you'd probably end up buying one of these things. But he used to be a representative for a company called VP Cabs, and they were on Shark Tank. They were like trying to make a consumer virtual pinball machine, and I had bought one of those, and it had licensed Zen software on it and everything, but the price point for that is much higher. So there really isn't, I know I'm giving you a long-winded answer, but there really isn't a product in this category at this price that delivers as many things as this does. So I feel like if you wanted something and you weren't going to build it yourself, and like this, it is appealing. I still don't know whether I want to get one, because oh, geez. Sorry, I was distracted by the comment on the pack stick. I don't know, man. I do feel like it's probably the best option in the community right now, but I don't know. With me playing so much of the physical, like traditional pinball, I'm not sure. But I think if I was gonna, like, if I was interested, it's a really good. I feel like it's a decent product for what, at least from what I've experienced, for the cost. Like, it's got a good value to it, I think.
From the people I've seen that own real pinballs, they have a huge collection of real pinball tables. What I hear is for virtual, or what they like about virtual, is that it allows them to play tables beforehand. So, like, let's say they're interested in getting the new, Jaws or something. They can play the virtual Jaws. I guess that's not a good one, because that's not a real table. Let's take like a Williams table, for instance. Let's say you're interested in Twilight Zone. You could play the Twilight Zone Zen table first, make sure you like it. Or maybe you're about to go play a tournament on Twilight Zone. You could play it virtually at home, kind of get a hang of it, figure out how do you score, how do you get high scores before you get there, or before you're going to purchase one. Do you think that's a good thing for a real pinball owner, to be playing virtually first, to kind of gauge, do you like it, or if you could prepare for a tournament virtually?
I don't know. I think because of the responsiveness of a virtual pinball machine, I don't know that you could get the timing right as far as practice goes, but those Williams recreation tables that they did for a while, those are really good. Like the Attack from Mars one is the game. Like, it's actually the real game. So I've actually played a couple of those before I've ever, because some of the older games, when you go to a pinball bar like the one you and I met at, like
Hmm.
they only have so room for so many machines, so sometimes they don't have the older machines. But I never played Tales of the Arabian Nights, the real one, until they took it out of that place. But the place you and I went used to have it, and that's like a very desirable game. But I had played it virtually. I'd never played it for real. But I actually, to your point, I understood what to do in the game, like what the objectives were. I don't
Hmm.
think you could get the timing right where it would necessarily make you a better player at it, but it will definitely let you understand how to play it, like
Hmm.
what the rules are. So I kind of hope that AtGames, instead of like focusing so much on the magic pixel stuff, because I don't feel like they make the best tables, that company, for them. It'd be cool if they did more of the recreations, and I think people would really dig that. I don't know. I think people like those, but we'll see what they end up doing.
Yeah, I'm kind of equally like on that subject, as far as the real recreations compared to like the fully um, or fully developed tables, like Snoopy, for instance. I kind of like them equally. The ones that are like not real pinball tables seem to be a lot more animated. They have a lot more going on the table.
Yeah.
Whereas the Williams ones, they will throw in some animations and stuff, but not as many. I think it offers you something a little bit different. So I equally like both of them, and I play them both equally. But I think there are customers out there that are going to just want like the fully recreated tables, the Williams ones,
Yeah.
and then some are out there going to have children. They're going to want to be playing like Snoopy. So it offers you, like with the lineup that they have, it's going to offer you something different on each table.
Yeah, I think so. I will say, I actually feel like sometimes the opposite can be true too. So I've been playing so much traditional pinball that it's you can actually pass some of the fundamentals. I think the thing that's the hardest though is that I've yet to play a virtual pinball machine that has a good accelerometer that you can really nudge the table the way you could a real one. If they could figure that out, like get that working the way, and I know that's a lot of mechanics that have to go into that, that would be really cool. Because I'm not saying I'm great at it. I'm probably whatever, like maybe low end intermediate at it, but it makes such a big difference once you properly learn how to nudge a table to get the ball to do things that you want it to do. Like in virtual, when it's draining and you only have buttons to press or as nudges, that it doesn't it's really hard to get those mechanics the same way. But I don't know, I guess they do have an accelerometer. But when I was at Pinball Expo, I don't know if I said this in the video. I don't think I did, because I didn't know exactly what was happening. The SSF kit was making the accelerometer not work. So I
Hmm.
guess if you have the SSF kit, this may have been fixed, by the way, but if you had the volume really high on the SSF kit, it would think you're nudging the table and it would tilt. So I
Hmm.
think they fixed that though.
Yeah, I've heard that it's been fixed because I've seen people with the full SSF kit not having any issues playing now. But I think that was a problem at one point. But yeah, so let's transition from At Games to Arcade One Up. We had some big news this week out of Arcade One Up, and it was this Marvel versus Capcom 2 cabinet, which is a collab cab. It's a collaboration with Disney, and they're doing the X-Men 97 animated cartoon that's about to come out on March 20th. Have you seen this yet, this leak?
I did see it. I didn't really have much of an initial reaction, only because I felt like outside, like it's not I don't know, the community seemed to, maybe I'm wrong, like I'm not exactly watching all the content anymore, so
Mm-hmm.
it felt like the community was getting really behind the idea that one-ups were recreations, as close to recreations as they could get. So when they do things like this where it doesn't look at all like the original cabinet or doesn't resemble it at all, I don't know if that I don't know, that might be appealing to more the casual, but the community members seem to really want the thing to look like it originally did. So I struggle with these kind of collaboration things. I kind of feel like they're more for a casual audience that happens to like X-Men and remembers arcade games, and they might buy like one or two. I don't think it's for the community. That's how I feel about it. I might be wrong. That's just like my outside looking in view of it.
Well, I think you're right on that. This is more so for Marvel and Disney. It's to please them, and the reason is when they do these collab ones, or collaboration cabs, they foot the bill for the development cost, because there's a lot of development cost anytime you release a new cabinet. And Arcade 1-Up's having difficulty putting out new cabinets right now because the development cost is something that they really don't want to take on. That kind of blew up in their face with like NFL Blitz. They had made way too many. They'll probably never recoup, what they put into that cabinet. So lately, or what we've been seeing over the last 6 months or so, is a lot of collab cabs, like the Kith edition, Marvel versus Capcom 2.
Do you know what Kith? I don't know if I'm just really uncool. I had no clue what Kith was. Do you? Like, did you know what that was? Like, I didn't. Like,
I had no clue what
okay.
Kith was until Comic-Con and that announcement. And then I figured it out. But yeah, it must be a new line of shoes for like a younger audience, because I'd never heard of them before.
Okay, because I didn't either. And I'm like, oh, wait, the K? Oh, it's Kith, but the K is silent. So it's Ifth?
Kith.
Really? So
Kith.
You don't say K? That's even weirder then. See, I'm so uncool. Carlo knows what's up.
So what we've been seeing, and another thing with these collab cabs we've been seeing, is they're reusing the same PCB. And I had spoken, you're friends with John D, aren't you?
I mean, we haven't spoken in a long time. I don't know if I'd say friends. I'd say, and hopefully he doesn't see this and go, "Why? I thought we were friends." I don't know. I feel like we're more like, I don't know. I feel like we kind of fell into the acquaintances category a little bit more, because I don't know. I probably shouldn't get it. I feel like put it this way, when we were making the content at some point, and I've said this before, I felt like we blurred the lines where I didn't know sometimes if he was really just coming to me because he wanted something or if we were really friends. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'd say we're friendly to each other, but I don't know if we're actual friends. I'm probably being way too...
but you've spoken many times with John.
Oh,
like
yeah.
You've gone back and forth and talked plenty of times.
Not recently, but yeah, there was a time where we were pretty open and talking. And he was involving myself and Justin in things that felt really cool to me at the time. But I think I was also unknowingly influenced by the fact that this person was giving me information that no one else had. And I felt like you start to feel like you owe that person something, you know what I mean? Because they're giving you all of this information, and he was really like showing us behind the curtain how 1UP was run and how things were going, because I didn't know who ThinkUp was, and ThinkUp was the company that really designs everything. And so he was allowing us to talk to them, but it could get really crazy. We could do a whole episode on the drama that happens between 1UP proper and their design firm, which I don't believe that design firm's actually their design firm anymore. I think they've actually parted ways. I'm not, because that guy that ran it was like very tight with, or very close friends with Scott, the original CEO. So I don't know, but sorry, that was a long-winded way. But yes, we did have a regular relationship back then, and we really haven't spoken for a while now. We have texted maybe back and forth, but that's about it.
So all the cabinets that Arcade 1UP made from the beginning of the company until about probably Comic-Con, I don't remember when that was, if that was September of last year, somewhere around that time, John D left the company. But up until that point, all the cabinets that they had released, John D had his,
fingers on, right?
Yeah, he had his touch on it, and he had his say on it. And you can see that in the cabinets. The cabinets look great. They're not exact replications or recreations of the original, but the artwork they've done a really good job on. Like this Marvel superheroes behind me, it's got some of the best looking artwork on the side panels I think they've ever done. And I just don't think they could have achieved that or made any of that happen without John D. And now that he's gone and he's not a part of this anymore, you can really see now the products that they've released since he's left, just how far they've come or how far they've gone from, when he was there. And it's just like you can tell John doesn't have any part in this cabinet. There's just a lot of things negative I have to say about the artwork. It's like the marquee. It's just like thrown a logo on it. It's got the black background. Just not a fan of that. That big X up there at the top there on the side panel. Not liking the look of that. And they did listen on one thing, though. There was one thing that everyone was talking about and was critical of. And that was that concrete kind of looking game deck that I don't know what you would call that, graphite, or what you would call that look.
I
But
think
everyone
it's
wanted the diamond plate.
Oh, is that not the diamond plate on this one?
This has the diamond
Oh,
plate.
okay, because the other one didn't, right?
It didn't. It had that concrete type looking game deck and bezel. And people just weren't a big fan of that on the Marvel vs. Capcom 2. It fit the Street Fighter really well because obviously that's what the original Street Fighter cabinet looked like. But most of the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 cabinets I've seen out there did not have that concrete game deck. It had the diamond plate for most of them that I've seen out in the wild. So they did listen. There was that one thing that they did listen on was the game deck.
Yeah, yeah.
But other than that, I mean, there's just a lot you could say that they need to improve on this. And then I would say another thing too is like, I don't think John would release a cabinet like this with the same games lineup. This one has the exact same PCB and games that we had in the last Marvel vs. Capcom 2. So it's not actually offering you anything new as far as games and gameplay.
I don't know how things changed when I stopped kind of, being as involved in the community. But I'll say this, John he used to get a lot of heat for things that weren't necessarily like, so when he kind of got us into or somewhat involved with the design firm, there were a lot of times where he would CC us on an email message, and that message would have other people at 1UP on it. And what I gathered from kind of snooping a little bit, even though like I was put on the message, so I would look, of course, right? Like if you were on the message, you'd look to see what other things might be there. And it seemed to me like at that time, there was a lot of butting heads where John might say, like, for instance, on this cabinet, hey guys, let's not do the same games list. But then some bean counter somewhere in the company would go, John, that's great that you want a new game, but it's really going to cost us a lot more. So we're just going to have to do, like, they would veto John, but it would mainly be because of financial reasons, right? It would, so you had one person where John was like, he was actually a legitimate, very passionate game player. Like he loved these arcade games, but unfortunately, right? Like even in our own companies we work for, sometimes the decisions that are more made for financial reasons and not because it's what maybe the masses want. It's more about the bottom line at the company. And so I'd like to think that if he was there, the games list would be different. But I think sometimes it comes down to like, how can we be more profitable? And then that's what they decide to go with, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. So what I've been learning, or what I've learned from a inside source at Arcade 1UP after John D had left, is that their business model or their business plan for 2024 is low risk, high reward. So
Makes sense. Yeah.
They basically don't, and one thing they want to avoid are development costs. If they're going to release anything new, they're in a really bad place financially right now that they have to recover from because of NFL Blitz. So this year is.
Do you think that? By the way, I'm just curious. I have no idea. By the way, do you think that Time Crisis and Fast and the Furious were successful for them? I have no idea. I'm just curious from your standpoint if you think those were also maybe flops.
That's a good question. So Fast and the Furious was a success. It's I think one of their most successful cabinets that they've done. And that's because it offered something different. It offered you the steering wheel, a racing game that they hadn't released before. And it was a little bit taller. It had a really tall screen height, and the steering wheel was a little bit taller than like Outrun and Ridge Racer. So they did a lot of really good things with that one. They also offered it at Best Buy. It was a Best Buy exclusive starting out. And then recently, around Black Friday, they offered it for $400. So people bought them up, and it's been really successful for them. Now,
but there's no evidence that, like, you know how there was a lot of obviously evidence that NFL Blitz didn't go well because they liquidated them to that one company. I can't remember what it was. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, but I mean, has anyone seen them do that with any other cabinets that would kind of maybe imply that some of the other ones weren't successful as well, or was it really just Blitz and that's kind of it? Like that's the big flop one.
Well, Blitz is the big one because they made so many.
Yeah,
they made so many units. They made like I don't know how many they made, but you
It
can
must have been a
imagine
lot
because they're everywhere.
yeah.
They're at Walmart. They were at Sam's. They were going for $200, I think, at Sam's at one point, and then
Yeah.
they liquidated them at Ollie's. But I don't think there's been, as much of a failure on a cabinet as there was on NFL Blitz. I think that was like the one that kind of put them in a really bad position. And I think we've heard that from Travis. Travis kind of laid that out and gave us that information. So this year was going to kind of be the year of low risk, high reward, and how can we do that? And one way we can do that is we can lower our development cost. And how do they lower development costs? They get other people to pay that. So Fast and the Furious was kind of like that, where they had Raw Thrills help a little bit on the development cost. And then now it's kind of like the license that they're getting or the cabinet they're making is completely made by whoever that collaboration is with.
Yeah.
Like this X-Men 97 would have never happened if Disney Plus didn't foot the bill for that. And when they do that, they get all the say. They get to say what they want on it, way it's going to look, and all that. So from what I've been hearing this week, and from what I've been hearing in the community, is that everything we're seeing on this cabinet was determined by Disney or by
Disney,
Marvel. That Arcade 1UP had very little say in any of this. And it's kind of unfortunate because it's like at this point, it's not like really like Arcade 1UP is running things. It's like they have other retailers
Outside interests,
or collaborations that are determining what they're doing now. But I hope that they do get back to where they were at, because at their peak, I think they were putting out some of the best looking cabinets. I was playing KI today, and the online on Killer Instinct is still really good. It's amazing how well it works. So they've done some really good cabinets in the past. They've some really successful cabinets and some really good online experience with some of these games. So I hope we get to keep that, because if the company were to go under, all these cabinets, all the online leaderboards, all the online competition we have going would end, and just don't want to see that.
Yeah. It is interesting though. Like when you think about when I think back at the sort of like the 2018, 19, 20 time frame, they were coming out. It was almost like there wasn't a dull moment, because they kept it was like another one and another one. And it was all the ones that everyone really wanted. I mean, people freaked out when they did TMNT. Like they freaked out. They absolutely lost their mind. And because, everyone loves the turtles. So it was just like, what? They're doing the turtle? Like everyone lost it. And I think the problem is how do you, it's almost like a band that keeps writing killer albums. Like at some point, if you can't keep the hits coming, the everyone else gets a little bored. And I don't know how they live up to what they used to do, because there's like a shorter list of games that all these retailers would probably want to buy and consider like safe bets. And are they able to do those because of the point you made, right? Like, will they take the risk to invest a little bit more so that they can test the waters with like a Daytona USA or one of these other games that people really want? So it'll be interesting to see what they do. I kind of don't, I hate sharing my real thoughts on it, because I feel like it's kind of negative, but I feel like they're kind of in trouble. Like I really don't, I feel like they're worse off than we think. And that's kind of unfortunate, because this thing that got created in 2018 has really, I'd argue it has really grown it's like this newfound interest of people that never did this before 2018, that are now into arcade games and keeping them alive, even though it's in a different form, but the love for the game. Like take 1UP out of the way, you now have a whole new generation of people that love these games or are falling in love with these games. And so if they do go under, that's unfortunate, because now there's only AtGames left, and then I know there's rumors that these other companies are going to get into the game and make these 3/4 cabs. I don't really feel like that's true though, but that's just my take. I could be totally wrong. Like I don't think New Wave Toys is going to make one, even though I think that's the biggest rumor in the community, right? I don't know.
I'm glad you brought that up, because it's like everyone thinks that it's going to be a full-size cabinet. They're doing it in collaboration with Glenn, GRS Products. And supposedly it's going to have Glenn's Viper board in it, and then New Wave Toys is going to make the cabinet. and the cabinet's going to be a full-size
Would
cabinet.
it be a multicade or would it be a one game thing?
It would be a multicade with like a Viper board, and you can sideload your games onto it.
I mean, I guess if it's done right, but then that really competes against AtGames, right?
Yeah, it will. And but kind of in a different way though, I think, because AtGames has like their own software, their own games and all that, where this is probably going to be running like Batacera or something like that. So it's going to be a little different in that way.
I guess that could be kind of cool because Glenn's always been someone that takes pride in making the controls that he makes very accurate to the originals, even though they might not be the exact same quality. He tries to like get a good price point and quality line. And so that could actually be kind of cool. I didn't think that's what it was, but if that's what it is, that could actually be kind of cool.
Yeah, supposedly we're going to get an announcement this month here in like a couple weeks. So
damn, you heard it here first on BD.
Yeah, it's coming up. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I watch Glenn's show every Friday, so I pick up on these things watching his show. And
you're hanging on every word.
Yeah, supposedly there's an announcement coming here and just by the end of the month. So, and that'll be a full size cabinet. So that'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But I do like your point on that. If it weren't for Arcade 1-Up, people probably would have never played these like classic arcade games. They would have never seen them. They would have never known what they were. Like today I was playing King of Balloon, and it's an amazing classic arcade game. And I've been into this home arcade stuff for a few years, and I'm just now getting to the point where I'm getting a chance to really sit down and play King of Balloon and see what it's about.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
and there's an endless number of games like that I still haven't tapped into and learned yet, you know.
I started doing emulation, like doing not buying real cabinets, but building things in around, it was like probably about 2000. It was either 99 or 2000. So I've been like trying to like learn a lot of these, like, you know, games that, because I was a 90s arcade guy. So, but there's all this world of 80s games. And then there was so many 90s games that were like flops. So that didn't mean the game was bad. It just meant that like it didn't make any money on the arcade floor. So it was out right away. But there's so many of these that I still find new stuff. I found one today called Destroyer of Jail or something, and it was Galloping Ghost because they do their new game every Monday. They put it on the floor, and I was like, "What the hell's Destroyer of Jail?" or something like that. I don't even know if I'm saying it right. Something like that. I can't remember. I probably got the name wrong, but I was like, "This is wild. I don't even know what this game is." And they only made 50 of them, or they made 50 boards, and so it was a failure as far as like the arcade goes. But that doesn't mean the game sucks. It's just that we wouldn't have known about it. I think it's Destroyer of Jail. I think that's what it's called. It's goofy, but because it's kind of weird. You break out of jail and you're just killing everybody. So maybe that's why it didn't do so well, because I'm like, this game's all about killing innocent people. I mean, it doesn't say that, but that's kind of what it implies. Like he breaks out of jail and he's just killing everybody. You don't know why. So anyways, yeah, it's a terrible name.
It's funny you had brought up to that arcade there in Chicago, Galloping Ghost, because part of the thumbnail I had taken an image from Galloping Ghost to put it on your side because you're into these real arcades. And there was one in that picture, and I had to look that arcade up. It's like a StarCraft arcade. Have you heard of this?
I don't know, actually. Maybe not. Is it one that has like a keyboard and mouse on it, but it looks like an arcade cabinet? Is it one of those?
It's just like a regular arcade cabinet with like joystick and buttons. But it uses like the graphics and like the logo of StarCraft.
I don't think I've ever seen it. Maybe and I've been there a bunch of times. I might. It's so hard, right? You could go there like 3 times and still not see everything because there's over 900 games there. It's really crazy.
Yeah, I had. Let me see if I can get it up here on the screen for us.
You really need to go there if you ever get a chance, because you'll just be in awe of everything that's there, and you'll see games you're like, I don't even know what this is. You know. Yeah,
so this is it here, and I had to look it up.
I don't even know. You see
this Mission Craft here in the upper left?
Yeah, I definitely have never seen that. I don't know.
I had to look it up to see what it was all about, and it's like an arcade made after StarCraft.
Oh,
and you'll have to look it up. There's Mission Craft StarCraft wiki fandom page. I read up all about it. And so there's even like arcades within Galloping Ghost you haven't even played yet.
I mean, to your point though, like you could almost think about the thousands of there's been so many of them that it could be like 5 or 10 years from now and you're still going to discover something new. So, and it might be something that someone else discovered, but a lot of times someone will find a game and then they'll sometimes make a video of it, but sometimes they're like, this game was kind of crappy, and they toss it aside. But that game that person thinks is crappy, you might think is cool. I
Right.
mean, I like a lot of games that are crappy, but there's still like, it's like there's a thing like called good crappy. It's like the game is so bad that it's fun to play. Like you're like, who made this? You know? So there's a
Like,
lot
see,
of
for me with like King of Balloon today, I was playing it because I was watching a live stream on Friday and they were
Okay.
teaching you strategies on how to play it. And just seeing the game and like it didn't appeal to me. You know, I'm a Galaga fan. I was like, this is just like a ripoff of Galaga. But then once I learned the game and how to play it and how to score, I was instantly hooked on it. I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. It's got these little guys that come down and they grab your king and they try to bring it up. And I didn't know that was how you played it. I thought you were just shooting the enemies. So
well, if
now
you
that
like
I've learned
that
that,
game, if you like that game, then another game you'd probably like that I didn't actually learn about till like much later, but it's around that same. I think that game you're talking about probably came out in like the early '80s. But there's another game called Kickman, which is you're like on a unicycle and balloons are coming down, and you're kind of like you have two buttons. You can like right and left kick to kick the balloons up. But Pac-Man makes an appearance in it because it's another Namco game. I think the game you're talking about is a Namco game.
yeah, it's a Namco. Yeah.
So you'd probably like this. I bet you'd like Kickman.
What's it called?
It's called Kickman.
Kickman. Okay, I got to
You'd
check
probably
it out.
like it. Yeah, it's cool.
So there's all these like hidden gems and games I've never played before. And that's, you know, we got all this time, you know, we're going to eventually play them all, hopefully,
Yeah.
if we're around long enough. But let's transition one last subject tonight. I kind of like when we go off though and we just start chatting about random stuff. It's like I
sure.
enjoy that more. We'll have to do a stream where we just do that.
Yeah.
But normally on Sundays I like try to show off the news and stuff. So I'm trying to fit that in as well. But this is the Nova Blast, the Full Metal Candy. And I was speaking to you about this before the stream, and you had told me you've pre-ordered this already?
I did pre-order it. Yeah, I did. I pre-ordered it almost right when it came out, actually. So, or right when they announced it, I pre-ordered it. So I was all in on this one.
And what did you pay? Was it $1,500 with everything?
Gosh, I can't remember because it must have been around there because I got the base with it. Yeah, no, I didn't do deluxe. Deluxe is with the chairs, right?
Yeah, so here's the,
I did the
promotional material they
$11.99.
had for it. Bar top is $9.99, base $2.99. You can get the combo for $11.99, or the deluxe comes with the two chairs for $14.25.
I got the $11.99 because I have these. Atari made these stools. They're like these little stools that were for their. Do you ever remember seeing the? I can't remember the name of it. It was a Kickstarter. It was this Atari, like tabletop Pong thing. I don't know if you ever remembered it. It's like a futuristic looking Pong table. And Todd Tuckey had bought like a bunch of the stools, and they're the same height as these stools to play candy cabs on, but they're like they're just these Atari branded ones, and they're like perfect height. So I was like, well, I don't really want to spend the extra if I already have stools, you know what I mean? So I didn't need them, but I thought $11.99 was okay. I was kind of hoping it would be $9.99 with the bar top and base, but it was a little bit more than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, so you're going to be great for one of these because you have all of the boards to throw in it. You have pretty much all that at your disposal. For someone like me that doesn't have like the arcade boards, would you think this would still be a decent buy for someone like me to throw like a PlayStation in it or something?
I don't know, because like I got excited about it because I was geeking out on the fact that you could put real arcade boards in it, and then if you're into like the emulation stuff, the Mister Project is really cool, and that would be a perfect combination for something like this, and that plays everything. I mean, that plays PlayStation, or that'll play like NES and Genesis and arcade stuff. So that seemed like a good pairing. But then I'm kind of confused because it seems like there's a relationship with the Bash Studio or Bash Gaming for the Bash box, and I felt like they were kind of it. I haven't seen them put this together, but it seems like Unico, because that's a Unico product, they're going to offer, well, hey, you could put the Bash box in this, And if that's the case, then you could probably sideload anything you wanted onto the bash box and then use that as your like, if you didn't have arcade boards, you could hook that up to it, or potentially a modern console too. But the only thing with a modern console is because that's 16:9 and widescreen, like this isn't a widescreen display, so it would like crop your modern console, so to me, this is more still retro gaming versus modern console. So I think like this thing is, I'm doing a review on this thing. This thing's the Super Console X5, hold on, Super Console X5 Pro. So this has the same chip as that bash box does, and it can play a lot of stuff. Like this can play, I've tested, it plays PlayStation 2 games, it plays PlayStation 1 games, it plays arcade games, it plays everything. I mean, really, it plays everything. So I think the bash box is competing with this kind of stuff, and it has the same chip. It's that
And what is that?
This is called the Super. It's. I think they haven't announced it yet. I'm not sure. It's called the Super Console X5 Pro. That's what this is called. But this is very similar to the bash box. It's an Android box, but it has this really cool. Have you ever played Coin Ops before?
Yeah, I play it on my AtGames Legends Ultimate.
Okay, so it uses a front end called Pegasus. So instead of Coin Ops, it uses Pegasus, and it's very, very like user friendly. It shows like the tabs on top are the systems, and then your games, your box art is kind of like underneath that. So it's very like user friendly. So I feel like if you paired that Unico up with something like this, it could be really cool. It'd be a cool multicade, but if you already have a Legends, do you have a Legends Ultimate already?
Yeah, I have a Legends Ultimate with Coin
I feel like
Ops.
when you have a Legends Ultimate, it's like it's kind of redundant to get this. You know what I mean? Kinda.
See, I was wanting to get this because it's going to offer me something different in that it's this sit-down candy cab style.
I mean, I guess the sit-down part, if you like that. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a difference. And it has... I never thought the ALU had bad controls. I think they do a pretty good job on the controls. So the Sanwa sticks and buttons are cool, but I never thought the AtGames buttons and controls were bad. They're not bad. I don't know. Would you say I feel like they're good.
The AtGames controls, they're okay.
Yeah.
They're okay. I wouldn't say they're great.
Yeah,
but
they're
usable. They're better than Arcade 1-Up by far.
Yeah, for sure.
This isn't something I think I'm going to rush out and buy. I'm definitely going to wait for people to get theirs and see what they're thinking of if they like theirs. This will be something I'll probably get like next year. But it is something we've been following, and I also interested in. I'm happy you brought up the bash box because that's something we've been following for the last couple of weeks. I think that what you have in your hand, and what was that called again?
This is the Super Console X5 Pro, which
Super
has the
Console
same chip.
X5 Pro. Okay.
And this has the Rock chip 3588, which is the same chip that he's using in that bash box. So same chip.
They are a little ahead of Bashbox because I don't think Bashbox even has a review unit out yet. So they've got a head start on them with that. Is there going to be a video coming out soon on it?
Keep in mind the difference between this and the Bashbox, though, this is like from China. Nothing is licensed. It's completely, it's like the gray area, right? It's like, cool, all the games are already on it. Go for it, Have fun, Biggie. Like, you'll be busy for the next 3 years. So, I mean, that I feel like, and I haven't been following Bashbox much, but I'm guessing they're going down the legitimate pay for the software route versus the, hey, load whatever you want, but I'm not sure. You'd know better than me on that.
I think you are side loading games onto it, but it doesn't come with any. You're going to have to do all that on your own.
Okay. So it's kind of like...
It is like legitimate in a way. Kind of like the AtGames Legends Ultimate. They don't give you any of the Coin Ops games. You have to put all that on yourself. So same kind of thing with Bashbox, I think. But those two are definitely going to compete. And I like how you said like that comes from China because the Bashbox is more of like a community-driven product. And that's what I like about those is that, it's part of our community that the people are within our community that are developing this. So it's like you always want to support those people.
If it has the same chip as this has in it, I was shocked because I used to kind of buy these, but I wouldn't do reviews on them because I always felt like it's kind of weird when you do a review of this because are you promoting the fact that you don't want anybody to pay for any games? Because this gets really shady. It has Switch games on it. It has a Switch emulator on it. So, I mean, to have a Nintendo Switch emulator on things that you can still buy, that's kind of like where I sort of draw the line. Like, I'm going to mention that it plays Switch games, but that's not going to be a focus of mine because I feel like that's kind of, you're falling into a pretty big gray area when you're talking
Yeah.
about something you can go to the store and still buy, you
Yeah,
know?
I'm right there with you on that. That's exactly how I feel to a T. Is like I like the side loading of games and putting these other games on my systems, but I don't like when I'm like seeing a video and someone's playing a brand new Switch game that just released in the last month. It's
Yeah.
like when you start seeing that kind of stuff, that's when I tune out because I'm like, I'm not about that. I want the developers to make money. I want them to be successful in whatever they've developed. And then years later down the line, maybe people figure it out how to play those games. But I don't like brand new games that just released and people are already playing them on these like Chinese made handhelds
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm right there with you on that. But I'm also, that's another thing I like about Glenn and those GRS products is they're community driven products, and I like supporting those people. So Bashbox is going to be right there with that as far as like Glenn's products and supporting the community. And but to kind of finish out the stream here, we've talked about AtGames, Arcade 1-Up, and this Unico Nova Blast. But to kind of finish out the stream, what have you been playing in your arcade lately, and what have you been doing in your own personal arcade?
Yeah, I've been basically mainly playing because I was fortunate enough to get into this new sort of test pilot program that Stern was doing, where they'd send you a game and you get to evaluate it. And I think it's just me and B Kong. I don't think it's because they're trying to appeal to the non-hardcore pinball people. They're trying to like bring in a new audience, and they they loaned me Venom. And I'm not like a huge Marvel Venom fan, but I've been having so much fun with that game. I've been hooked on it, and the reason why is because it uses. Remember when we were at the bar and you were like, hey, what's the Insider Connected thing? And we kind of were talking a little bit about it. Then you downloaded the app. Well, Venom is really cool because it tracks experience points as you play the game. So as you play the game, like as you level up your character, it becomes easier to like fight bosses in the game and progress through it. So, but once you do it once, you do it for all of the host characters. So you keep doing it, and then it unlocks a new character. So I've been so hooked on trying to unlock all the characters that it's almost all I've been playing. Like I've been pretty much playing that almost like every night. I'll go down there and play that.
So is the Venom one that Stern sent you, or is that one you bought?
Well, here's the thing. So I ended up liking Venom so much that I asked Stern if I could trade them my Stranger Things for the Venom, and they were like, yeah, sure. So I sent them back my Stranger Things, and I kept the Venom. So
How long did you have Stranger Things?
I got that in 2019. No, 20. I got it in the second run. So this last run was the third run of Stranger Things. So I want to say it was like 2020 that I got it, or something like that. But
That's a good table. I like Stranger Things. I
It's
like
fun.
when that thing pops out at you.
Stranger Things is so if you get a chance to play a lot of Stranger Things, then go play Attack from Mars, you will find that game is very much like the center point of Attack from Mars is the saucer, right? And the center point of Stranger Things is the Demogorgon. And Attack from Mars has a right ramp and a left ramp, and that's exactly the same layout as Stranger Things. So if you like Stranger Things, then I think you'd really like the real, if you ever get a chance to play it. I don't know if they have it at that bar you and I have close to us or not.
I think they do have it.
Do they have it? Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I haven't been there. I actually went there on one of my videos a few weeks ago.
I saw that and it was closed.
It was
I was so
closed,
bummed
yeah.
out. I'm like, you go up to the door. I saw the video. I didn't comment though, but I saw the video and I'm like, oh, it was closed. So I could tell you were so deflated because you're like, oh.
Yeah. And right before I had walked in, I saw the owner walk in too. So he must have just like locked up right before I got there.
I felt bad for you in the video because you could tell you didn't know. You were literally experiencing it as we were, and you're like, oh, it's closed. So.
Yeah, that was going to be my second time going there. Or no, that would have been my third time going there. There's a person in the chat that was in earlier that had met out there as well. So that would have been my third time. But I like that little bar. It's got not
cool.
a lot of room, like you said, but they're making use of that small space.
And they have good beer there. If you're into beer, craft beers, they have great beer. Like they have good beer. You can't really beat it. Good beer, good games. And the other thing about that place I like is that guy that owns it, and I can't remember his name right now for some reason. He keeps his games really clean. Like they're all, if you go to like a dingy pinball bar,
Mm-hmm.
you can like see the layer of filth on the machine, and he's
Yeah.
like meticulous. Everything is really well, and I personally appreciate that because I know how much work goes into keeping, especially in a location like that, right, where kids can
Mm-hmm.
come in and do God knows what with
Yeah.
the machines.
Or
So,
or spill a beer on it.
oh gosh,
Talking
yeah,
about that, I went back to Texas to visit family back in what was that, about a month ago, January 15th. I was there, and I went to a arcade in McKinney, and I'd done just a short
okay,
video on that, just kind of showing it off. But I'd went with my dad. My dad normally won't go to arcades with me. He's not a big fan of these.
yeah,
And actually, growing up, that's kind of why I like arcades so much. Is because growing up, I had home consoles, but my parents never took me to the arcade ever. So
okay,
now, as an adult, I love the arcade. It's like the best place for me.
yeah, that's
And
cool.
so I'd gone to this. What was I saying now? Oh, okay. Oh, my dad. Okay, so took my dad to the arcade. He finally decided he was going to go with me on this trip that I'd gone out to Texas to visit him. We went to this bar in McKinney. It was like a barcade. And I was like, hey, come play these pinball machines with me. And he's like playing Galaga. He loves Galaga. That's like the only arcade game he likes. And I drug him away from that and took him over to the pinball machines because I wanted him to like them and maybe buy one. And he has a beer in his hand, and he sits the beer on the glass,
Oh no,
on the pinball table to the right of him on the glass. And it's slanted. So the beer tips over and
oh
it
no.
spills all over the pinball table. And it was a Stranger Things that it spilled on. And so I went and grabbed a bunch of paper towels out of the bathroom and I started cleaning it all up. And then I cleaned up all the floor, the beer on the floor. And shortly after I'd finished cleaning it up, I was like, man, I hope they didn't see that. And right as I said that, I was thinking that, a guy walks over with one of those little cleaning things that says, watch your step, and puts it right in front
Oh
of the
no.
pinball machine.
Well, your story reminds me of like, because you probably, when that happened, you were like, oh boy.
Yeah.
And there was
I was like, I don't want to get kicked out of here.
the first ever CES I went to was in 2019, and I was with a friend that I actually met through YouTube. He doesn't do well, actually, he does Twitch. He does Twitch game streaming, but he didn't then. And New Wave Toys was there. I had no clue who New Wave Toys was in 2019. I did not know. Or actually, it might have been 20. I can't remember if it was 2018. Oh no, sorry, it wasn't CES. It was E3. So it was the before when E3 is no longer, but it was in LA. And when I went there, we went to the New Wave Toys booth, and him and I were playing. It was I have it over there, but they made a Street Fighter 2, but this was before they released it. So they were just showing them off, like, look at our cool stuff. And him and I were playing, and he goes, oh, you can play him. And he gives me the little controller, and I'm doing Hadoukens, and I'm like, this is so cool. We were getting like kind of heated, and I go and do a Hadouken, and the freaking, like, the stick part flew off the thing. And I was like, and it was a slow motion, I swear to you. And I'm going, oh no. And it landed like right in front of the guy that put us on it in the first place. So there was no like getting out of it because the thing landed like right in front of him. I'll have to find the video. I still have it and post it on like Twitter or something because I went, oh crap, what do we do? What do we do? And then my friend's like, it fell right in front of the guy. So it's just like, and it was the prototype. We broke the friggin' prototype. So anyway.
So that was the end of the prototype at that show. They had
We
to put
did
it
not
up.
go back to the E3 booth after that. Put it that way. We didn't go back. But,
So New Wave Toys, you said you only own that one, the Street Fighter?
oh no, I own. I have the Food Fight, the Tempest, the Street Fighter, and the Dragon's Lair. I think that's the ones I have. Oh, and then
okay.
the wait, who made the? Oh no, that's new. That's Numbskull. But those are the only ones I have. I think. Yeah.
The TMNT?
Yeah, I have the TMNT Numbskull, the Space Invaders one, and then they made a. Do you know the whole backstory on Polybius? Like it's this. It's,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
this
it's like
game
this
that they were going to
fictitious-
brainwash people
Yeah.
with. Yeah.
Yeah, like there's a whole like like a storyline behind it. Whether or not it's true, who knows? But there's some real things that are true that people connected to the game, like that it would go into a whole other topic. But there's this government program, you could Wikipedia it, called MK Ultra, and they were trying to say that government program was like tied to this video game as like a means to extract information from people, and it goes really deep, the whole lore behind it. But I have the Polybius one. That was a long-winded way of saying that. So,
And who made Polybius? Am I saying it right?
Polybius.
Polybius. Okay.
I know it's hard
who
to say.
Made that?
Polybius. Well, no. Who made the replica one? Numbskull. But it's just a USB charger because no one has there is no actual game. Well, there's been people that have made games and said this is Polybius. Like in the early days, there was like websites that would say like, it wouldn't say who it was, and like this is the source code for Polybius, but it was just someone like making it up.
Yeah, but, it's all fake. It's just a story.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those New Wave toys are pretty cool. I've got the Ghost and Goblins. They had sent me out that one for review, and I'd already gotten the review video out.
That one looks really pretty. Like it looks really cool.
I love it. It's looks perfect. And this was also the first one that had the coin op function. You put like a little micro coin in, drops in, and it starts the game, just like a real arcade would.
But can you press a button too?
You can press a button also.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
you have the option.
I don't have one that does that. That's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, the Ghost and Goblins was the first one that did that. But all of them are going to have that moving forward. The next two that are coming out are going to be Frenzy and Berserk. Do you like those?
See, I'm not really, no, like those don't necessarily, see, some 80s games appeal to me, but those two don't. Like those, I wouldn't be interested. I mean, I'd like to see it. I'd probably watch a video on it, but I wouldn't be interested personally in either one of those. But
I've played Berserk on my iArcade. It's actually a pretty cool game. You're not a fan of it?
Not really. I don't know. There's certain games like you either just get into or you don't, and that just hasn't been one that I've really, maybe I'll go back and play
more like
again.
90s games?
I like the 80s games. It's just I don't like all of them. Like there's certain ones that I don't really like. But no, I mean, I'm good. I'm equal opportunity gamer guy. If it's 80s and I like it, then it's great. Like there's definitely a lot of 80s games that I love. Like I fell in love with a game that really Sinistar, which was a game that like not a lot of people liked and not a lot of people even knew how to play. And it was one that my buddy introduced me to, and I was like, oh my gosh, this game is so cool. It's very, once you learn it, it makes a whole lot of sense. But it was one that when it went into the arcade, people assumed it was asteroids and they were just shooting things, not realizing that you need to like harvest crystals to build a bomb to destroy the boss. Like people didn't know that. So because it wasn't intuitive at that time, like you could go to Pac-Man and pretty much figure out what you have to do, you know, but this game wasn't that way. It was like, so it was almost like, because it wasn't intuitive, it wasn't successful, but the game's actually a pretty cool game. But anyways, I like most of these games.
And I do like Sinistar, but I can't really get into it. And I think the reason is I don't know how to play it. I think if I just learned a strategy, I'd probably like it a lot more.
You would. Everyone that I introduce it to it, after I show them like this is the rules of it, they're like, oh, this is cool. It makes sense now. But if you don't, you quickly lose interest, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then New Wave Toys are going to do, they got a couple other ones still coming. The Fortune Teller.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool.
Those are called, I want to say Zohar, but it's not
Zoltar. Yeah,
Zoltar. Yeah, they got that coming. It's been delayed a lot, though. Like, people pre-ordered that thing over a year ago, and it's been delayed again. So we'll see when that comes out. I feel like that's really
complex to do. Like, I'm shocked that it even has like the little fortune tickets and everything. Like, it's pretty detailed.
I think that's what's been holding it up is the ticket dispenser and getting that to work. Now, you've been to Castles and Coasters. I know you're a big fan of that place. They have one there.
Yeah, I was a big fan of that place until my buddy left working there, because now it's kind of like.
Oh, he left?
Yeah, he works for Bolero now, which is buying up a lot of these other these bigger arcade places locally. But there's actually, I got to figure it out. You and I should actually go there. There's some new arcade that opened that's supposedly freaking epic here in Phoenix.
There?
Yeah,
okay.
And it's not. I don't think it's mainly retro, but it's got some retro stuff, and I can't remember the name of it. It's a chain, but I saw a couple pictures of before it opened, like the inside of it. It was posted on like Facebook somewhere, and I was blown away. You want to see candy cabs? They have like this whole row of all these candy cabs playing like Street Fighter V, and so it's cool. But no, he no longer works at Castles and Coasters, and so I don't know. It's kind of like the maintenance aspect of the place has kind of gone way downhill. Like they're not.
It's an older
anything.
place. It's like the building's gonna definitely need some work.
Yeah, it was built in like 1978, I think, or something. I think it's 78, and it
It's
was
been there
from
a
his
while.
grandfather that built it. But they really haven't. I feel like because they're sort of a budget place and they don't charge a whole lot, like compared to like a Six Flags or something like that, they kind of get away with it. And like there are people that are saying, "Oh, well, when this, you know about the Mattel place that's opening up, right?
Oh yeah, I've been following that. I can't wait. I live right across the highway from that place.
That's
So
gonna be freaking cool. They have a Castle Grayskull. I mean,
yeah.
like, what the hell? Like that's so cool. That's gonna be right in our backyard. So I don't know if they're gonna have any arcade there, but that place will obviously be a lot more expensive to get into than Castles and Coasters. So I think
Well,
Castles
there'll
will
also be a
still,
lot of development around that
yeah,
theme park too, whenever that opens up. So maybe new arcades will, be built
maybe,
around
yeah,
that
maybe.
area. But I spent like the whole first year of my channel going around town, showing off like the smaller arcades that don't get a lot of publicity, and just showing those off. And I feel like I've gone to almost all of them.
What's your
There's
favorite
still,
one you think out of the ones you've been to? Like, what one would you say like this is the one that's my favorite?
let's see. So of all the ones I've done, which one is Castles and Coasters? Those are
Oh,
like,
you'd call that one your favorite?
yeah, I had that the most fun doing the video at that one
Okay.
because it's so big. There's so
Did you do any of the like rides too?
I didn't do the rides. No, it was specifically just the
Okay.
arcade I focused on, and I just like how it has the two levels and there's a lot of room to move around. It's
Yeah.
not really crowded there, so you can video a lot and you're not bothering people. And I could even set my camera up and like look at my and point it at myself while I was playing. Wouldn't have to worry about anybody knocking my phone over or anything.
Yeah.
And then I like how they have the pinball machines up at the top there. That was your idea, wasn't it?
Well,
To get all the Sterns.
well, my buddy at the time that worked there, I was like, man, all your pinball machines are kind of in bad shape, and people are really into Insider Connected. And then he was really into wanting to do tournaments. So I was like, well, why don't you become? It's called Stern Army. So like, if you become a Stern Army location, you get the leaderboard and all that stuff. And the thing is, now that he's not there, though, no one's really taking ownership of it. So they have the machines, but last I heard, like they're not even online right now. So like, if you go
Oh,
there with your insider, yeah, I don't know why. Maybe they're gonna turn that around, but it's kind of a bummer because
they
they
need
had a
like
lot
an
of
adult
momentum.
area. You know, like how have you been to what is that place over in Tempe that I went to? It's kind of like a Dave and Buster's. Tilt.
Tilt, yeah, Tilt
Yeah.
Studios.
So Tilt has like an adult area for like the pinball machines. It's
Yeah,
kind of
upstairs where the bar
yeah.
is and stuff.
They need to do something like that at Castles and Coasters. You know, like have like a bar next to it or something.
So my buddy that when he worked there, he had this idea. There's this one structure that's in the middle of the park that they don't use for anything, but it has a basement, and they were going to make it like kind of like a speakeasy arcade where you'd go down and you'd be able to have drinks and they'd have like a select amount of games, which that was a super cool idea. But I think when he left, they decided to just abandon the whole idea, which is unfortunate. But I think that would be cool though, to have like an adult area.
Yeah, that's what I liked about Tilt. And you were asking which one did I like most. I would say Tilt and Castles and Coasters. I'm about even on both those.
Yeah. Tilt's
Those
cool.
were the ones I had most fun doing videos at.
Yeah, well, Tilt has all those like, holy crap! If you like crane machines, it's like, oh my gosh,
Oh
cranes
yeah,
everywhere.
massive ones, like 2-story tall crane machines.
Yeah.
Yeah, that place is impressive what they've done with it. In the Phoenix area, what's your favorite arcade?
I really like Tilt too. I think Tilt is really cool because they have a lot of older pinball machines too, and they have some really cool older Sega games. So the reason why they have all those old Sega games is because that used to be a Sega GameWorks, and
Oh,
Tilt
okay.
bought them out. So they have games that you're like, why? How do they have this? Like they have original
That
Sega
retro
Rally.
arcade area by the
Yeah.
pinball machines. Yeah, that's a really cool area. And those
So
look like they're in really good shape too.
yeah, so I like that place. My favorite probably, I wish it was open different hours and I wish it wasn't so far away, is probably Starfighters because they have everything. I mean, they have like all of the old retro games. And that would be great. If you haven't filmed a video there, go film a video there because you'll be like, wow, they packed so many awesome games in this small space, and it's supported by the collector community. So there's just a lot of really good things there, and they're well maintained. But it's only open like I think it's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and it's very limited hours. It's not open during the week.
Yeah,
So
that's what I was about to say. It's kind of hard to get a video in there because they're only open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And during those hours, they're slammed. It's like you have a
Yeah.
hard time walking around in there. It's like even when you're playing pinball, you got people right behind you walking behind you. So
Yeah.
it's tough. But that is a great place. It's talking about the arcades and the selection of pinballs. That place is impressive what they've done there. It's just those limited hours makes it tough.
I know.
And like you said, I used to live over on that side of town in Mesa. I'm in Glendale now, so it would take me an hour. I haven't gone back to the east side since I've moved to the west side because it's that far.
I don't go over there either, and that's the thing is I really like Electric Bat Arcade, but the thing is to go over there is like a 40-minute drive. So it's just I don't know. The way I guess anybody who's watching who isn't from Arizona, like they kind of build these communities and they put everything you need in them, so you don't really go over to the other side of town because there's no reason to go unless it's like you're going for a sporting event. But if you're going to a Cardinals game, that's right on your side of town, so you're right there anyway. But
Yeah.
like,
And it can take you a long time to get to the other side of town too. Like with traffic and stuff, it could take an hour and a half. You know, where if you drive an hour and a half north, you're almost in Flagstaff. So it's like it's a short distance, but it takes a long time to get there.
yeah.
So I haven't been going to that side of town, but I do want to get back to Starfighters because that is a great location. And do want to hit up Castles and Coasters again, especially since you said that your friend left. I want to see what's changed or, you know, how if it's gone downhill since I left.
I think you'll probably, unless something changed since the last time I went, I was kind of disappointed. But hopefully they're figuring out how to bounce back and get someone that wants to. Their problem has always been that no one there wants to own that arcade. And Cole, who was my buddy, he was the only one that really said, "Hey, I'll own it." Like, even though that wasn't necessarily his job, he was doing like a whole bunch of different things there. But he kind of was the one that said, "I'll own the arcade." And there was some things they finished. Like when you go in, I think they replaced all the carpet, which the carpet in there was the same carpet since it opened. So you can imagine an arcade carpet that's from 1978, probably, you know.
Yeah, something I
seen better
won't ever
days.
forget about that place too is that little babycade that you had done a video on it.
Oh yeah, I can't remember the name of that company that made those. Those were really made for. It was funny because I found the marketing materials for it, and in the marketing materials, it basically says without saying like, "Hey, when you go to the arcade, you can just throw your kid over here and it'll just do that." For a while, like it was kind of like ignore your kids and here's what you'll do. So that was like their whole marketing pitch was this is like your babysitter. So I don't know. That was kind
And
of
that
funny.
released in what, like the 90s or something?
I want to say no. I think it was like no. It was before that. It was like early '80s or something, or maybe
Oh, okay.
mid '80s. Yeah, or '83 or '84 or something like that. I can't remember the name of that stupid thing. It had,
And
like, a
those are
weird name.
rare too, right? Like you can't find them hardly anywhere.
Well, the funny thing is so this is a true story. So I found a picture of that thing and I used it on the thumbnail, and it has a guy sitting there, and that guy emailed me and he said, "I really wish you would have given me credit for my picture." And he did. I was like, "I'm sorry, I don't really understand what you mean." He's like, "Well, that's that's mine. I'm in the picture." I was like, "Oh shit, I'm sorry." Like I didn't know. I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." But like he really was upset about it. He's like, "Why would you use my picture without letting me know?" I was like, "I just Googled it and you came up."
You came up.
Yeah. So it's just interesting. Like that one guy found that video. So that just goes to show how like rare they probably are.
Yeah.
This one guy's like, "That's me in that picture."
He's probably the only person searching that on YouTube to find that.
Well, I found out more information about them is I've gotten pretty friendly over the years with Todd Tucky over at TNT. He's like a wealth of knowledge. If you have a question about something older arcade related, there's a pretty good chance it's been through his shop and he's seen it. But I asked him like how many of those existed, and he kind of explained that the idea was to make it like a babysitter for the kids so that the adults could enjoy the arcade, but it didn't really take off because the game quality wasn't great. Like they didn't make great games. So
Yeah,
people
when
were
I
like,
walked up to it, I didn't even want to play it. I was just fascinated with how small it was.
yeah,
And it had like real style arcade controls on it and all that.
yeah.
And to know that it came out that long ago, that's crazy. To kind of finish up the stream, I guess we'll talk about Game On, because that's coming up here in just like less than a month. You're going to be there?
Yeah, and I think we're both going to be there, right?
Yeah,
So-
I'm going to go. I know there's probably some others in the community that are going to go. It's coming up here. I think it's March 15th or something like that.
I have it written down, the 15th through the 17th. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And you're busy. I mean, I know you're busy with work and all that. Now you got this new job that you've been just really busy with. So it's cool that you're going to make it. I know I reached out to you last year to go to Game On. You couldn't go because you were just starting that job, I think, then. But it's good to hear that you're going to make it this year, and you're going to bring something there.
Well, so I have to see if Unico is really going to do it. So I reached out to Unico and said, "Hey, because they're going to be I'm looking at my board that has addresses. I mean, not addresses, but dates on it. So there's a industry show that happens in Las Vegas every year called the Amusement Expo International. So I've gone to that for like the last 3 years. And actually, because of my relationship with Castles and Coasters, I was their guest when I went, which was cool because it's kind of more of a. It's not really like a outside. It's kind of like you have to be in the almost in the industry of selling these things or own an arcade to go. But you can go. Like you could go buy a ticket and go to it. But it's just not like an event many people go to. But Unico is supposedly going to be there, and that's the 20th through the 21st. So I asked them and said, hey, if you're already going to ship a Nova Blast to that, would you consider giving... I was kind of using John, who's the guy who runs Game On Ice. So I said, John's looking for games for the arcade. So it would be really cool if you guys could loan us a Nova Blast. And then I would just bring a bunch of different boards and then throughout the weekend, like shove different games in it and just kind of like show people this thing. And they said yes, but Unico's just always sort of like, I don't want to say flaky, but I never trust it until it happens.
Yeah.
So,
would there be a representative of Unico there, or just be you handling it all?
Well, I don't know. That's the thing. They didn't say. They just said, yeah, we can get you one. But it wasn't like to keep. It was just to loan to do this.
To show it off.
But they're just always sort of... They're such a small... I don't want to say... It's not negative. They're just such a small company that they don't have that many people working for them. So when they say something, it's like, I don't know if I believe it till it happens.
Yeah.
You know?
So we probably won't know until the day of.
I guarantee you I won't know until like the day. And they're like, hey, it's coming. It's going to be there. I'm like, what? You know? So
it's on your doorstep.
Hopefully... The funny thing is that's actually not that different than how our Arcade 1-Up would operate. Like David McIntosh would say, hey, are you interested in blah, blah, blah? And I'd go, yeah, that'd be cool. Like, that'd be awesome. And then like randomly, I'd never hear from him. I'd be like, status on this? Never hear from him. And then like 3 weeks later, it would just show up at my door. And then I'd be like, hey, I got it. Wouldn't hear back from him. Hey, I made the video. Wouldn't hear back from him. I'm like, do you even care that I did this? Like, everyone thinks that they like boss people around. They don't even, they just send stuff and they're like, all right, hope for the best.
I think that would be really beneficial for them to get that out there at that expo and show it off beforehand.
I think so too.
It creates a lot of excitement for the product right before it releases. Because if they don't do that, you're not going to get the videos. You're not going to get all that publicity.
So supposedly there's a video. I think I saw I was watching it probably while I was supposed to be working, and I didn't catch all of it. But I think Cool Toy got a chance to see it at some show. But I'm pretty sure in the video, he says, like, they showed up 2 hours before the show was ending with it. But see, that's what I mean. That's such a Unico thing to do. Like, oh, the show's been all weekend. We just showed up 2 hours before.
Yeah, he had like less than an hour to show it off.
But that's like, why would you even do that? You know what I mean? Like, that's such a missed opportunity. That'd be like AtGames coming to Pinball Expo the last hour of the show and be like, look at my pinball machine, you know?
Right.
So I just think they're not as organized as they could be, you know?
Yeah.
But
are you going to go I think it's 3 days, isn't it? Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
I think I'm going to go all days. And then the other show that I think you would really be interested in, it's under new ownership now, is you'd have to fly for it. But in Pasadena, California, there's a show called, it used to be called SoCal Retro Gaming Expo, but now I think it's just called SoCal Gaming Expo because they want to do modern stuff too. That one is always really fun. Like that one I met the Angry Video Game Nerd at. He was a guest, so they had like very high profile guests there. I met Biggie2988 and all these like bigger YouTubers there, and it was kind of cool for me because I went to that show when I first started. I had like 100 subscribers, and of course, like no one knows who you are when you have 100 subscribers, but I was like in awe because I met all of these people that I had been watching. Like I'm trying to think of who else was there that I was like, holy crap. It was Angry Video Game Nerd. There's another guy called Nintendrew. I don't know if you know him.
He was at the Cleveland Gaming Classic.
Yeah. So like it was cool to see all these people that I had watched before I even started doing YouTube. So
Hmm.
that was kind of fun. So but Game On's got some huge guests this year too. So it'll be fun to be there. I think
Yeah,
it'll
the
be a
one
good
I
time.
went to, it was last summer. There was a lot of cosplay going on there, but they had an arcade section. They had like the retro gaming booths where you could trade games and all that. And then they had fighting tournaments going on where
Okay.
people were playing like actual fighting games and a lot of competition going on there. And then they had retro consoles. It was pretty big floor, a lot going on. And I had that was pretty early in my channel. I did a video on it. I felt like that video did pretty well. And I'll probably do that again this year. I'll just
Yeah.
bring my camera equipment and just kind of walk the whole floor, show it all off. I've got these DJI mics now, and I've got the two of them where it's a
Oh,
set.
cool.
So I can interview people now. And I didn't get a chance to do that last time. So
Yeah, that'll be cool. You should check out. I don't know if they're doing it this year, but if they are, it's really cool. They do that, and maybe they did it last year. I didn't go, and I know you did. But it's called like the Retro Gaming Championship or whatever, and they'll have like games that people play, and they're the NBA Jam one the 2 years ago was pretty awesome. Like people were like getting really hard. I was like, holy crap, these guys aren't like kind of good at NBA Jam. They were like really good. Like I would never ever try to play them. It'd be embarrassing. But it was cool to see that there are people that are that good at some of these older games, you know. But that was fun. They had that one year. And then I think this year they might have a band that plays like video game music. Like they're definitely going hardcore this year. I think the show's a lot larger than it was the year before. So it should be cool.
So that arcade we met at and went to was Player One Arcade. There's another place in Glendale called Ready Player One Games. Have you ever heard of them?
Yeah, I know the guy that owns that. I met him because I was selling an arcade game. I was selling a shoot, I can't. It's a Midway game. I can't remember. It was a Midway racing game, but I was selling it, and he came to pick it up. And the funny thing is, he didn't end up buying it, but he's like, "Hey, I own an arcade. Like, you wanna see what I have?" And
Mm-hmm.
then I got to know him because he's big into buy, sell, trade. So him and I
Mm-hmm.
were like trading games. It was really cool. Like if I got sick of an arcade game, he'd put it in his arcade and then like trade something back that wasn't earning money.
Mm-hmm.
He's really cool like that. He'll sell pinball machines, but his place is only open limited hours. But it's funny because the way he explains it is like, yeah, because he owns something like 30 plus restaurants in the valley. So
Oh,
that's
I
his
didn't know
main
that.
business. Yeah, that's his main
Yeah, it
business.
looks like the arcade is like for his enjoyment. Like I don't know if he
And
makes
that's
a lot
how
of
he
money.
explains it. That's how he
Yeah.
explains it. Like he's like, well, it's like a place for me to put my stuff because my wife gets mad. Like basically.
That's what
And,
it looks like. It looks like someone's game room, like their like personal game room.
well, do you know the other side of it? So there's two sides of it. So when you walk in, you're walking into the comic book store, which
Yeah,
is
you
called
got the
Jesse
half
James
comic
Comics.
book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That place is pretty cool, but I just wish it was open. Like you can't really go there during the week because it's not open. It's like only
Yeah.
the comic book area.
I
But
like it because it's not that crowded, and a lot of the arcades he has in there are only a quarter,
yeah,
like
yeah,
one quarter to play. It's awesome.
he has something in there that he showed me last time I was there that I'm not that into this, but when he explained it to me, I was like, holy crap, that's really cool. So we were playing air hockey, and I was like, this air hockey's got like a crazy sound system. Like, did you put this in here? And he's like, no, I won this at auction. It was so I guess Disney had like a Mad Hatter arcade.
Uh-huh.
Because I didn't notice it at first because I was like, but then I looked and it had like Mad Hatter on it and all this stuff. But it was a Disney, like whoever made this, I don't know who made the air hockey table, but it was branded, designed specifically for Disney. And this thing is just like really cool. And he's like, yeah, I got that at an auction and there was only like 5 of them ever made. So I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. Like he has a lot of go in there and really take some time to look at some of the collectible stuff he has because it's like he has insane stuff that if you just walk through fast, you don't notice. But
Yeah,
he
I've
has,
done
like, yeah.
I've done a couple of videos.
Oh, you've
in
gone
his
there.
place.
Okay, so you've
yeah, and I like his spot because he's totally cool with you filming.
Totally cool, yeah.
He's very chill. Like just wants you to have a good time. And then I'd also saw him again at Game On. He had a booth at the Game On, and he was selling arcades. He was selling tons of arcades during the event last year, and yeah, I was wondering if you knew of him because I'm hoping he'll be there again this year because
I'm sure he will.
yeah, he's got some really cool arcades. He goes all out for the Game On Expo and brings all his arcades out there, and He was even trying to get my help towards the end of the expo because he's like, I need to get these back to my place. And I was,
That's cool.
I didn't offer any help, but maybe this year I will, because he's been so nice to me when I go into his place to film or to play arcades. It's like I'll probably help him out this year.
Yeah, he's a super good guy. He's always been like really helpful, and he kind of was instrumental in the beginning for me to get to know some of the people locally to kind of get in with the arcade group here, because they're kind of tight knit and they've been doing it for a long time. So I still actually feel like I have better relationships within the arcade community outside of Arizona than I do inside, because it's a little cliquey. But he sort of has helped me like get in contact with some of these people that aren't on YouTube and they're not even on Facebook. Like they're collectors, but they're old school guys, you know? So they don't, if you tell them to go on like Facebook, they're like, what?
I feel like the arcade scene here in Phoenix is like much more than what I'd noticed in Dallas when I lived in Dallas. There's like more arcade collectors here than I feel like we're in Dallas. And I think maybe because we have this dry air, people can keep them in their garage.
Yeah, I mean,
it doesn't get too cold during the winter to ruin them. So people have more areas or space to store these things. That was the only explanation.
Isn't it also humid in Texas? So humidity isn't good for games either. Yeah, so it's a good point. I never really thought of that, but
there's probably not many areas in the country where you can leave your arcades year round in the garage.
Yeah, no, it's true. I just don't go in there as much in the summer because it's so it's so.
In the summer, yeah, brutal. Even at night.
It's like, I mean, I say it to people because, like, unless you live here, you don't really know. But there'll be people that'll leave a comment that says something like, "Why wouldn't you be in the garage playing games?" I'm like, "Because it's like 115 degrees out, and in the garage it's probably like 130 or 40. Who knows how hot it is, and the air's all stagnant. And if you open the garage, it doesn't do you any good. It's just
actually the sun may come in and make it worse.
Yeah. So yeah, it's brutal. But right now it's beautiful. So you need to get back out. I see you go hiking a lot. That's pretty cool. Like this is such a cool place to do that. So
yeah, that was a large part of the reason why I moved out here was because we have no mountains in Dallas. It's just flat, and I wanted to get into hiking. So I've been doing a lot of that since I got here. I'm probably doing less now than I was doing when I first got here, but I still try to make time to do it at least once a week. I'll go out to the White Tank Mountains, which are about 10 miles down the road from me here. And I got an annual membership, so I can just go in through the gate anytime I want. And they got a bunch of good hiking out there.
That's cool. Yeah.
And I've been going to the gym a lot lately, too. I've been working out. So hopefully I can get back into the groove.
That's good, man. Yeah, I'm trying to do the same thing, but it's always hard. It's always a balance. But
like I'll get into it where like I go to the gym like 2 or 3 times a week for like years, and then I'll quit doing it. And when I quit, I don't go back for a long time. And I've been in that mode for like 3 years now. So
that's about. I was gonna say I've quit for 3 years right now, so it's not good.
But now I'm like eager to get back in there and like and go more often. So I guess that's good too. Taking care of my health as well as doing my YouTube stuff.
Everyone has to. I feel like I let this. Unfortunately, my job is kind of crazy. Like it during COVID, I took advantage of the fact that things were kind of crazy. Crazy like no one knew what to do at my company. So it was sort of like I had like free reign to almost like my schedule was kind of whatever I wanted it to be. And then when it stopped and everyone was like, okay, like we're all back to work now, like for the most part, it kind of was a little bit of a shock because I didn't realize how much time I was putting into YouTube. Like I was streaming almost every day. Like I would just do a lunchtime live stream. Hey, it's lunchtime live stream. And like, sometimes those streams would go on for like an hour and a half. I'm like, crap, guys, I gotta go back to work. Like, and work was like just turning around and going to that desk over there.
Yeah.
But it's just, I definitely don't put as much time into YouTube right now for various reasons, but also like you have to balance it and do things for yourself too. I mean, it's sometimes, because you know how it is, it can be very time consuming. You clearly prep for all your shows and put your slides together, and like that's a lot of work.
Yeah, so it's definitely like a full day's worth of work, for one live stream. When I do the solo one and I show off everything, it could be like a full day's work. And then I'm still not really good with the editing of videos. I feel like I'm like doing it the slow way. There's probably like a more efficient way I could be doing those and getting more videos out, but I'm still learning all that stuff. So I've never done any video editing until I got into this.
Yeah, yeah,
about a
it's
year
crazy
and a
all the
half
stuff
ago.
you learn. The stuff you learn. Like I just when I talk to like I'll joke like I'll be talking to my wife about it. And like, man, I bought like 10 microphones until I actually knew what I was supposed to get. You know what I mean? I was like,
Yeah.
this one sounds exactly the same as the other crappy one. You know what I mean? It was like it took me forever, and I spent so much money, and I probably could have just asked somebody, but it's
Yeah.
like I wanted to learn for myself, so maybe I was a little stubborn, but then, you know, you'll get a new microphone, and then you'll get a new camera, and then you get new lighting. Like you just got the DJI mics. Like
Yeah.
it never ends. And it's cool though, because you're always learning something new. So
Expensive hobby.
it is expensive hobby. Yeah, it does not, as much as people would like to believe out externally that your videos will pay for your hobby. It does not work out that way, unfortunately.
You'd have to be a
So,
real big one, a
yeah,
big like million subscribers or
yeah,
half
yeah.
a million. But yeah, this has been a lot of fun, Retro Ralph. I'm glad you came out and did the show with me tonight because you know I've been asking guests every other week to come on, and I just sent you out the message asking. I didn't think you would actually say yes, so it was a
Why?
huge surprise that
we know
'cause
each other. I mean,
you're really busy and you've got a big channel. So I was like already kind of preparing myself that you may say no or that you'd be busy. So when you said yes, I was really surprised. And I was really happy. So I'm glad you made it.
yeah, I'm glad you asked. I feel like don't I feel like we're all on the same, like there isn't any like bigger or smaller. I mean, to me, we all operate in this like small little hobby, and we all, you know what I mean? I don't view it like that. Like, oh, I can't do this or that because like that doesn't. Sorry, I'm trying to say this and it's coming out wrong, but you know what I mean? Like, I don't even
Yeah.
think that. I wasn't like, oh, we know
I've heard,
each other. I mean,
you know, Steven the Tech Buzz. You're
yeah.
familiar with him. Yeah. He had said something to me once that made a lot of sense. He's like, you know, unless you have like 1 million subscribers, we're all
the same. Yeah.
You know,
I
you
mean,
could have 100,000 and a person could have 1,000. It's really not that big of a difference until you start making, you know, till you get 1 million subscribers. Then you're in a different ballpark, I would say. But
and I would say that none of us, like, this hobby is too small to ever like be that unless you decide to, like, if someone's only aspirations was I want to be this gigantic YouTuber and I want to do this full time, then you'd have to like expand out and do modern stuff and like just kind of do all gaming, because our audience size is actually really small. Like the biggest, there's one guy that's called Arcade Matt, but he does like crane machines and like Dave and Buster's type stuff. But the biggest person that
Arcade
does,
Matt,
yeah, Arcade
yeah,
Matt.
he gets, yeah, his
But he's
channel's
also
huge.
like his is like, think about it. He appeals to like any kid that goes to an arcade. So his audience is gigantic.
And
But
he's like about the prizes and the tickets and
yeah,
how
and
to
I'm not
strategize
really.
getting
Could you
more
imagine
tickets.
going and
Yeah.
doing that? Like, that wouldn't be what I'm into. But he has a huge audience, and if you think about it, the largest traditional arcade YouTuber was a guy who stopped doing it, and his name was John's Arcade. He was the biggest one. So I mean, and he stopped when he hit 50 something thousand subscribers. So I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, maybe it'll maybe the channel will grow a little bit more, but I feel like the max, not the max, but like the ceiling is like around that 50,000 mark for our niche hobby, because
If you're
pinball's
going to
even
stick to
smaller.
just arcades.
Just arcades,
Like
yeah.
if you were going to do something different with your channel, it could grow. But like I see what you're saying. If you stick to just what you love, which is arcades, there's probably limited to how many people are going to be interested in that hobby or that subject.
I think so. The only time that the times where things get crazy is if you start doing, I've become pretty good friends over the years with, he lives in the Netherlands. Have you ever watched Wicked Gamer and Collector?
Yeah, I actually watched your interview with him actually.
Okay, yeah. So him
Yeah.
and I reached out to him and never thought he would write back. It was one of those things where I was kind of doing what you just said. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
he's this big YouTuber. He's not going to write me back. And he wrote me back right away. And my question was, hey, I've been buying all these Pandora's boxes all these years, and I just feel like every time I buy one, something else is broken and another thing is fixed. And he's like, oh yeah, that's exactly how it works. Like China just keeps pumping these out and we all keep buying them. And it was just funny because we kind of had that connection that I used to buy all this stuff. I just wasn't a YouTuber and he was. And so we became kind of friends from there. And he's such a nice guy. Like he'd help anybody, and he loves that, like he would appreciate the way you go about doing YouTube, where you build your show and you plan it out and then you do it. So in the early days, like when I first started, he really helped me understand, like, hey, it's all about consistency, and make sure that don't like put a video out and not make another one for a month, because people won't think you're serious about it. So he helped me a lot, but yeah, unless someone is like a Mr. Beast, like I'm sure like a big big YouTuber, we're all in the same, we're all on the same thing, having fun and just sharing. It's a hobby, right? I mean, that's what it
Yeah.
is at the end of the day. So
I've heard you say that once before. It's like you got to put out like a video a week to be successful.
I was doing 2 in the beginning. That was my goal. It was 2 videos a week. And I've really broken the rules now, but it used to be I'd do a Monday and a Friday, and it was consistent. Monday, Friday, Monday, Friday. But then I also wasn't married then. So,
Yeah.
I have and my kids have gotten, like, during the time, like as that time progressed, like my kids were getting more into sports and more into things. And there was a joke, because when I used to live stream, I'd forget. I did one time actually forget him at soccer practice because I was on a live stream, and it became this joke, like I forget my kid, which I did one time, but I'm not proud of that. But I did. But, yeah, it's just, I don't know. I think it's fun. This is a fun hobby. It's just it takes a lot of work, and you just have to kind of figure out how to balance it so that you're not imbalanced and you're only spending time doing this, because that can happen.
The real reason I got into this was just to meet like-minded people that enjoy this hobby, like you, meeting you. It's like that was the reason I got into this, was to meet people that I like the same things I like. It wasn't to ever be like this big YouTuber and make a bunch of money. I never had those aspirations. Really, it was just being part of a community and getting to know these people. That's what it was
and you
about.
probably, the thing is, like, I bet when you went to Cleveland, you probably interacted with people that you're actual friends with now. Like you're friends with them outside of this, which that's really cool.
Or I had made friends with them online, and I'm finally meeting them for the first time in person, and that's cool. That would have never happened. And like that Cleveland Gaming Classic meetup that we had, that was one of the best experiences I've ever had. And
that's cool.
So YouTube, there's a lot that can come from YouTube other than just money and success and fame and all that. Just meeting people is a big part of it for me.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, the more you go to like these shows and stuff like that, you'd be surprised at like some. I'm sure you probably get it every now and then. You'll get like someone, and these are the most meaningful comments. Someone will say like, "Hey, like I was watching your show and I was going through some hardship in my life, and your show, even though like you don't realize like what people are going through outside of this," and they'll say things to you like, even though you didn't really do anything other than talk about arcade stuff, you made them happy for that hour, and their life at the time was chaotic. I've had several, it's only happened like maybe, I don't know, a handful of times, but when someone comes to you and says that, that's a pretty awesome thing to know, that like, hey, that wasn't my intent, but I brought them some happiness during like a bad time. And that's pretty cool. Like that kind of thing. If you haven't gotten that, I bet you will at some point, and it'll be cool when you hear that. Or if someone just says, "Hey, thanks, I watched your video and now I know more about the product, and I decided to get it. Thanks." Whatever.
Some of my best comments are the ones where like I do like a video on, what I think about something, and I don't even own it, but they went out and bought it, and they're like, "I bought it because I watched your video and I liked what you said in the video." Like I like
that's pretty cool,
because you're like, you're just giving your opinion and what you think about it, and then they're listening and then going and getting it because of what you said. I think that's pretty cool, that they believe in what you're saying, and they
and it
feel
goes
that.
back to what you said. As long as you keep, you feel like what you're sharing is your authentic, impression of whatever this is. That's all. I mean, that's all we can really do is talk about it, and sometimes I guess every now and then you fall into a category, not a category, but where I do like something and someone else is just hung up on some of the bad parts of it and they can't get past that. And sometimes they'll be like, "Well, you should have." It's like, well, I did say it, but I'm willing to overlook it because I like the product, or I think it's cool, or it has potential. Like sometimes things you might buy, like, I mean, if you think about it, the original arcade 1-up had a lot of like when I bought the original Street Fighter, which is funny because when I bought it at Walmart, and they didn't even have risers there. I had to go to a different store, and then when I went there, they said they had 5 and they had none. So I like when I got it home, think about the buzzkill it was for me because I thought I was going to be able to play it standing up. And I
Yeah.
had a room, I had just moved into this house. The room had nothing in it. So imagine if your room was empty and all you had was the one up off the riser. It'd be
Yeah.
like I was so deflated. And then finally, and I was like doing whatever all you guys are doing. I was searching every Walmart all across Arizona just to
Yeah.
find a riser. And like, I finally found one. I was like, yes, I can put it up and play it standing. So I don't know. It's just fun. It's fun
Yeah,
to
my
like,
my first one was the Marvel Super no Final Fight for $75.
that was your first one?
Yeah,
Oh, you got in on the like, when they were doing
Justin
the crazy.
Console Kits was telling everybody what to do to get those deals at that time, and I'd gotten a $75 Final Fight. Luckily, I was able to get the riser at the same spot, so I didn't have that
Okay.
same situation you fell into.
Well, and that one was when it's so funny how weird, like when I look back and think about how like I was doing weird, crazy, like very odd things to get this stuff, but I remember like I was on this Facebook group and some guy had gotten the Street Fighter before the date it was supposed to be released. And that I was like upset because I'm like, well, I want it now. Like, why would their Walmart give it and mine doesn't? So I found out, went to the store, like I've heard you talk about in your videos. I went to the store, I talked to the manager, and the manager's like, yeah, man, I looked in the back. It is here, but I don't think I can give it to you yet. And so then I was like, are you sure? And so he went as far as to go get it, and he brought it out in the cart, and the lady was about to scan it. So he's basically giving me the like green light. He's like, I think it's good. She scans it, and it says something like, I can't remember the terminology or the verbiage it was. It was something like, it said like street date or like some term they would use when you're supposed to be able to
Street
sell
date,
it.
I think that's it. Yeah.
And it said like not for sale before a street date. And then she was about to do it. Like she's like, oh, I can override this. And then the manager was like still around. He's like, wait, what does it say? And I was like, no, don't tell him. So she's like, yeah, it says something about the street date. And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Now I have it in the cart. Like I'm ready to roll out of there.
Yeah.
And I was so bummed because it was 5 days before the street date. So I thought I was going to get this thing. And I remember stewing on that Facebook post where this guy had it. And I'm like, why am I this mad about this?
Yeah. I
We can get
remember
a little
those
crazy.
days.
We can get a little crazy over our hobbies, I guess.
Yeah.
That's a little unhealthy, but it's okay.
That's where it began for me, though, was the whole shopping for these arcade one-ups and Walmarts and trying to get these incredible deals for these things. I'd gotten a $75 Final Fight. I'd got this Marvel Superheroes for $150 at a Walmart.
Oh,
And
wow,
I
so you got
the-
good deals on all yours then.
Yeah, Miss Pac-Man, I paid $199 for it at Walmart, and then $150 for the KI. So pretty much every arcade one-up I've owned, I've gotten an extremely good deal on.
That's a really good deal. And that Final Fight, do you still have that one or did you sell that one?
Yeah, I have it upstairs.
Okay.
I just
That's
have
one
it.
of my favorite, like that was at the time that was one of my favorite ones because I really like Final Fight. And I feel like that has like 1942
Yeah, it has 1944,
on it,
the
or
Loop
four-
Master.
Yeah. Yeah, that has some good games on it. Like that one was
It's
really
got
good.
Ghost and Goblins on it. It's got Strider.
Yeah, that's a good cabinet. Like that one was pretty cool. And I think that was the one, I can't remember. I made this really dumb video. It's probably still on my channel somewhere where I was saying there was some conspiracy theory around Final Fight. I can't remember. It was when I was doing news. I'm not good at news, by the way. Like I pretty much don't do news because it stresses me out. Like if I tried to do it for a little while and then I'd be like, oh my gosh, so-and-so released the video before me. I was like, I gotta hurry up. I'd like drop everything I'm doing, be super irresponsible just to go film this video. So I'm not good at news. It stresses me out too much, but
I used to do a lot of news. I still do if there's like a big enough story. It's just Arcade One Up hasn't been releasing anything, and that's some of my best news comes from them. But lately it's been AtGames news is the only thing I can really update on. And but I can do it. I don't particularly like doing it though because there's so much competition, like you said, to get yours out first.
And the unfortunate thing is that it kind of does matter. Like it does actually, because it's like time sensitive. So if you don't get it out right away, it's fun to see when I don't know. I'd be lying if I didn't say it's kind of exciting when you put out something and you're like, wow, I like all these people watched this. Like it's cool just to know that you made something in your house in front of your camera that a lot of people watch. It's just fun to see that. And the unfortunate thing with news content is if you're not first most of the time, like people get, I don't know. It's just weird. People like trail off really fast. It's like they're bored of it even though you have a unique perspective, and that might be algorithm. I don't know what that is exactly. It could be part algorithm, part people just are bored with it if they've heard it a couple times. But
Well, I think it's just the first one out. It gets the most views, and people tend to want to watch what has the most views.
yeah,
'Cause,
yeah, that's
like,
true.
They're
Yeah.
like, oh, that's where I need to be, is where everyone else is watching. So
Yeah.
I think that's what leads to it. But who knows? There's all kinds of, like you said, algorithms and things that YouTube has that we don't know about.
That we try to understand, but honestly, we never will understand.
Right.
So, hey, I forgot to tell you, I had messaged you. I feel really now I'm feeling like I'm leaving my son at soccer. We were gonna go watch a movie, so I was like, oh yeah, we'll be about an hour and a half.
Yeah,
So.
I was about to wrap it up now anyway,
Okay.
so that's good timing. But I'll say bye to everyone. It's good to see everyone in the chat tonight, guys. And sorry I couldn't get to y'all's questions or bring up y'all's chats on the screen, but we had Retro Ralph on, and I wanted to get in as much discussion with him tonight as I could. But I really appreciate you joining us, Ralph. This has been a great time. And we'll see everyone next Sunday. I'll be doing my solo stream next Sunday. And hopefully I can get my apartment a little cleaned up before then. It's been a hectic weekend, but I'm glad we got the stream tonight in, because I almost postponed it or delayed it. But I'm glad we were able to get it done tonight.
Yeah,
It's fun.
same. I appreciate you having me, and I'm sure we'll do other ones, and maybe at Game On we can actually do something together, because we'll be there.
I would
together.
like to do that. Like, at least
That'd be fun.
get you on one of my videos and ask some questions live, on or on a live stream or on a video I produce.
Yeah, we'll
But,
find something that's cool there, and we'll geek out on it and make a video or something.
Yeah, that'll be fun. So you guys
Yeah.
stay tuned in. We got Game On coming up here in about a month, or less than a month now. And hopefully you'll see Retro Ralph and me in the same video coming up. But you guys have a good weekend, or rest of your weekend. Good start to your Monday on Monday morning. And I'll see everyone in the next one.
Thanks again.
Talk to
Appreciate
y'all
it.
later,
See you
guys.
guys.